Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I'm your host, Nicholas Allen, and as you can see, I'm off site, so I'm going to do my best today to get this wrapped up neatly for you guys. My guest today is Ryan Kuperus, also known as Hunting Carolinas on Instagram. Ryan is a Recon Marine, a hunting guide, also works for the Reason Outdoors, doing great things for veterans there. Predator and feral hog control expert and all around interesting guy. Another long episode for you guys today, so I hope you guys stick around. Today's episode is brought to you again by Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley. Precision Wellness Group provides bioidentical hormone therapy through evidence-based personalized telemedicine. Dr. Taylor Bosley is an emergency medicine physician, a U.S. Army veteran, and a Green Beret. So, comes along with that is he knows where you've been, where you want to go, and how to get there. And he's an actual doctor who can prescribe you actual medicine and knows actually what to do and how to do it and the correct way to go about it. So if you have been thinking about this for a while, look them up, Precision Wellness. I will have links to their socials in the show description, along with Hunting Carolinas. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Ryan Kuperus, welcome to Lesser Known Operators, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. You saw my reel about what the show is about. Sent me a message. It was funny that you sent that to me because I was just looking you up as well and researching kind of what uh, Marine Recon, right? You're Recon Marine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What that
Recon.
is. And contrary to popular belief, anyone that was in the military generally doesn't know everything about every other branch and how it works. I know people think we do. I like when people say, "Oh, hey, did you know my cousin Rick?" No, I didn't know your cousin Rick. What was he in? Oh, he's in 50 years ago and he was in the Coast Guard. No, man, fuck, I don't fucking know that. But so
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you know my buddy Bill? He was a Marine too. Where was he stationed? Camp Lejeune. When? Like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah. Oh, he died before you were born. Well, no, I don't think I knew him
Yeah.
then. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's always
Never crossed paths.
no. I don't think I knew him. I don't think I knew him. But I appreciate you reaching out, man. Carolinas, hunting Carolinas. I saw you had a couple pictures with snow in it, though. Are you always hunting the Carolinas, or are you moving around?
No, I'm a have guns will travel kind of a guy. So hunting Carolinas, I do a lot of hunting in the Carolinas, hence obviously hunting Carolinas. But I also run a nonprofit called the Reason Outdoors. Um, I'm co-founder of that, and we take veterans and first responders and their kids hunting and fishing uh, all over North America, the United States, rather, so far. And so, yeah, I have guns, will travel. My retirement goal is to try to hunt all 50 states. So I'm working on that.
Okay. Um, is there a lot of hunting in Rhode Island?
Oh man, you know what? I kind of have reserved states in that part of the country for towards last. Um, I mean, I'm sure there's stuff to hunt in Rhode Island. It's just in some of those states up there, you can't hunt with suppressors or, any of the guns or most of the guns I have in my safe. So I'm kind of reserving the more liberal minded states towards last.
You'd be out there with a wood bow and a handmade arrow in
Yeah,
some of these places.
exactly.
So, no, that's cool,
Yeah.
man. That's got to be pretty rewarding, right? Taking veterans and their kids out in the woods and hunting. Um, I know, you get back around veterans or the boys or whoever, your teammates and things like that. And you just get out where you're away from everything, and it's just so I don't know, just relax. Like you just feel good. You back, you kind of
Yeah.
forget about all the shit of transitioning out of the military and everything. You just go, you kind of get into this relaxed state. Is that what you find?
Yeah. Back in I was in a Humvee rollover back in 2007 and broke my femur, my back, fractured my forehead, a bunch of other stuff, and was sitting home eating pills and drinking booze and feeling sorry for myself, and kind of toeing that precipice, that dark place nobody really wants to go, and decided I needed to do something to get me out of that funk. So I ordered a bow off eBay and started hobbling around in the woods with a back brace and a cane, and found healing, mentally, anyways. And before I retired, and since I retired, I've run a couple, done hunting guide work, and I used to own a full time guide service, and found that I really enjoy bringing, watching people harvest animals and teaching them how to do so, and bringing that to the veteran space. Our one of our co-founders, Tony Cowden, he's a Green Beret as well, one of your brothers. He and I were going to start this back in 2017, and we kind of put it on the shelf until a couple of years ago. And bringing veterans and first responders and that it's super rewarding, especially when folks have the who have always wanted to hunt and never been able to, or had no one to teach them or mentor them. um, just getting those guys out into the outdoors is, and watching their happiness, or watch them kind of transform from, you can tell the guys that are kind of down on themselves or just in general, and watch how happy they are when they harvest an animal, or spend a few days out in the woods. So it's super rewarding for us anyway.
Yeah, and you got to get all kinds of, because everybody's at a different stage in their like transition or where they are mental health wise, right?
Yeah,
Because you get out and there's this slump, and it's really hard to describe to people that are still in with words what's going to happen when you get out. Even if you're very prepared for the transition, you're just going to fall off a cliff. It might not
yeah,
look like it to other people, but it's really going to bug you. And it can take a long time to dig out of that slump. And oftentimes we'll just go right back to the things that were fun in the military. One guy on here said, we brought up drinking and with the military, and he goes, yeah, and people go back to it because it's the last vestiges of the team room or drinking with the team, parties in the barracks on the
yeah,
weekends or whatever. And so they kind of grab onto that as that's the easiest thing that they can get a hold of from the military. So the shopette's always open, the liquor store is always open. They'll always tell you more, and you can just kind of sit and reminisce about the times you had. Um, you
yeah.
do you guys get into some pretty interesting conversations about service and things that people wouldn't normally talk about?
Yeah, we really do. The first hunt we did was a backcountry Idaho elk hunt, which um, is probably the second hardest hunt you can do in the lower 48. Um, Idaho Unit 39. I mean, the terrain's rough. Success rate is crazy low. So we bit it off hard because, I mean, what else are we going to do but go hard in the paint? You know what I mean? Why not just bite it off from Jump Street? But we had climbed, I think, from probably like 5,500 feet of elevation to 8,000, maybe a little over that. Probably one of the harder climbs I ever did, like including, Mountain Leader School or being in the mountains of Afghanistan and stuff. And one of the guys that was with us, he was I can't remember what his job was, but he was attached to an infantry battalion in the Marine Corps, and we were up glassing, and he was like, "Hey, if it wasn't for this hunt, I would have put a pistol in my mouth and blown my head off 6 months ago." And we've had another friend of mine that I actually just randomly met him back in December at the deer processing place, and he was an Army veteran, and got to talking with him, and now his son helps me out, guide some hunts, and got him involved in the program doing predator hunts and stuff. And he literally told me, he's like, it was by design, that you and I met, because had I not met you and gotten involved with your program, I probably would have killed myself. And that is uh, extremely humbling, and shows that what we're doing makes a huge impact on people. And so those obviously that's the extreme side of the spectrum of stuff, that we hear, but we call it ecotherapy, and you know, it works, right? The outdoors is healing, whether it's hunting, fishing, whatever, hiking, whatever it is, So, um,
Yeah, that's really depressing. You know, I mean,
yeah,
it's great, but then the because everybody listening knows somebody, or many people. I do as well that made the decision to go, and when you kind of hear that, little things like that can make that decision, can suppress that decision. It can alter people's perspective when
yeah,
it didn't happen in other cases. Now those people are gone. I
yeah.
know it's
T-
it,
T- Tony and I have talked about this a lot. Guys from our walks of life, the soft community, recon community. I mean, heck, the infantry community, even, right? Rangerback guys. You're always told like, oh, there's symptoms, right? Because you have to do a gazillion suicide awareness classes in the military, like probably quarterly. Um, I mean, half those classes almost make you want to do it. But, like guys in our communities, there's not, more often than not, you don't see the warning signs. They just go and do it
mhm.
because that's the type of people we are. Um, and so, like, the question is, like, how do we, I mean, you can't prevent something that you see no warning signs on, but how do we do that? Right? How can we reach these guys before that thought is lodged in their brain? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I haven't found the answer to that yet, but it's definitely a question.
No, I think you're right. You are right, right? Because obviously people will go their whole lives and be depressed, but never make that decision. So something's holding them back, family, commitment, or they just don't want to pass that pain and suffering off to other people. That is, I think, a deterrent, as shitty as it is, a deterrent that we don't talk about enough, right? Because you don't just disperse your pain evenly throughout your friends and family. You disperse it exponentially. So you give all of your pain to each one of the people that love and care about you. And I think if not, no, not all the time, but if people understood that more, that they would think twice about it and maybe ask for help. Not in all cases. I mean, you can't do everything because I get it too. I know that feeling of being so tired that you just don't want to get up. Like you don't want to do anything. Nothing's working. You're over self medicating. You're not working out. You're not going outside. You're not talking to your friends. You're isolated after you get out, or you're isolated when you go home. Like you don't talk to anybody. You don't have contact with people. And I get it. I do. Um, but do you want to do that to your friends and family? Do you want to pass that on
Right.
to them? Like I get it that you're in pain, but you know, most of the things we have done in our lives were for somebody else. Really, it's very rarely do we work on the things that we truly want to do. So if you really have done all these things to help other people and just be a good person, then that is the worst thing that you can do to somebody. Now,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it, that feeling and things like that, but it's there's some responsibility to stop avoiding the subject on all of our parts, because we treat it
100%.
like a sneeze, right? You know, you shy away from somebody to sneeze, like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to get it on me. You know, it might like you might get sick with it. They treat it like it's somebody's got the sniffles. Well, we can't do that. It's an epidemic of silent
100%.
proportions, because we just ignore it. Like, it's gonna go away. It ain't gonna fucking go away. That's for sure. And yeah,
No.
getting people out and together. And yeah, I found I isolated. I didn't know until I started doing all this shit how much I had isolated myself from the community, because I was so far from base. I was so far from the people that I wanted to be around every day. They weren't there anymore. And you had to see that when you got out.
It's awesome that you know, could see that for yourself. Because a lot of people don't, especially a lot of first termers, right? So a lot of first termers, all branch of service, they don't look at, their enlistment as a job. They look at it as a contract, right? And Marines are notoriously terrible. They're like, I've got 2 years, 3 months, 4 days, and 15 hours, and you can't stop the clock, right? Like, and it's like they're constantly right ticking this time down, right? But if they looked at it as a job, right? No matter if you live in the barracks or you live out in town, whatever it is, right? But if you look at it as a job, all right, I'm at work at 05:30, and I'm here till in the grunts, that's whenever they decide to let you off, right? But if you look at it as a job, your perspective changes a little bit. But a lot of these guys that look at it as a contract, they get out and they're like, I am getting the F away from the military. And they self isolate on purpose, not realizing that during that time, right, they built this network. And they've relied on this network and this surrogate family, and they isolate themselves. And by the time they start to realize that they have lost that network, right, it's almost like too late, because they have too much pride to want to reach out to people just to check in, right? And they're like, oh, well, I did this to myself, so I'll continue to self isolate, right? Because I'll have too much pride to contact people and just say, I miss you, man, like, because that's what it is. You miss your network. So us bringing, like if I took you, a Navy guy, a cop, and a coastie, and put you guys together on a hunt, by the end of the weekend, you're all going to be friends. You know what I mean? And you've expanded that network, right? Probably with people you didn't think you'd be friends with, and there obviously be a bunch of inter-service rivalry and whatnot, but that shows guys that, hey, look, the veteran network is a powerful place. It can be an extremely toxic place, but it can be a helpful and healing place if you allow it to be.
It's a successful abusive relationship, is what it is. You know,
100% abusive.
um, but it keeps going on. Like, I got to get out of here, but I can't. I don't want to. So that's it. It kind of drags you in, and you don't realize that even if you don't like it, even if it fucking blows, that you like it there. Part of you does. You're like, we're all sucking together. We're all having a good time having a bad time together. And everybody reflects on it like, those were the best time of my life. Well, you didn't think so while you're in, but then you're out and you do. So it's this weird, position. But you're right. I think I'm past the point though, like, of friends, like people you don't think you're going to be friends with. I just run into everybody I talk, like, just be positive and nice, and generally the overwhelming majority of people, I'm kind of become friends with or whatever from the service and things like that. But people think they're not going to. You're right. They're not going to get along with other people, or they're going to think differently of them, or have all these things in their head. that aren't true. Like, just be how you were, just be a normal person and be nice. And you're right, inner agency or inner branch infighting and stuff like that. Hey, crack a joke. Gauge the room for humor. See what everybody take everybody's temperature. Um, you know, if you're not, if no, that was the other thing about the military. If nobody's making fun of you, ooh, that's a bad sign. That's a real bad sign. And
100%. It definitely means we don't like you.
yeah, we got to get rid of this guy. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great, man.
We have yeah, we have an unofficial motto after you've kind of gotten to hang around with us, or when you do a few weeks in the back country, right, and you're the all the gloves are off, so to speak, and it's like healing through hurt feelings, right? Because who's getting trash talked right now? Could be me, could be Drew, could be Tony, could be one of the guys. Like who knows? And that's our laughter, right? Is healing through hurt feelings, but you have to be like in the family, in the fold to have that.
It doesn't take that long. It doesn't take that long. You do
No,
the,
it don't.
it depends on if you're in similar units. You do the secret handshake. If I run into other Green Beret, I'm like, it's only a few lines, and then you're like, okay, you're probably cool because so and so, helped me out once. So okay, I'm gonna let it slide
Yeah.
until I find something else out about you. It will be all right. We can be friends now. But
But yeah, the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon is strong.
in group, it's 1 degree. I have rarely will I find it. I don't we when I run into somebody else that there isn't one person between us. It's very rare, especially with the more and more people I meet. And I wasn't in that long, so it's a very what is it? It's a big world, but a small community. So a lot of people in it. So have you always been a hunter?
Um, I would love to say yes. I mean, so I will say yes, just not a good one.
What makes a
So
hunter good?
I mean, the ability to harvest game for one. But when I was a kid, I grew up on a dairy farm upstate New York, and my mom was not a fan of guns, so I never actually had I had like a compound bow and a BB gun and stuff like that, but I never had a gun like most guys get started with 22s. For me, like I turned 16, I got a 12 gauge shotgun. Uh, so I say I wasn't that good of a hunter because I would go hunting with my uncle and we'd do a deer drive after we got done milking cows or whatever. And we never shot anything. I think he just took us out there to appease us. I'm thankful to him for that too. So I never really got hardcore about hunting till after I had my accident, and my family will talk all kinds of trash. If you had one of my brothers on the podcast right now, they start talking crap to me because like when I got that bow off eBay, I was like, all right, I've been to the sandbox, we shot two-legged critters, right? The ultimate game animals. So it's going to be primitive, right? I'm only going to hunt with a bow. Well, as I healed up and started going back to schools and training, deployments, all that, I didn't shoot a deer for probably like 3 years. On my way up to New York to go hunting, one time I hit a deer with my truck. So I was like the family, like they still talk crap about it. It's like I hit a deer with my truck, but never got one with a bow. Um, and then so like I'm on this like years long dry spell, right? But I'm like, I'm not giving up. Um, So I got a muzzleloader. So like, yeah, muzzleloader, that's primitive. Shot my first deer with it. It was a little 8 pointer. And I was like, you know what, self, you love anything that flings projectiles. Like, what the hell were you thinking? I mean, the premise was good, right? Like primitive and all that. But then like bought a rifle. And after that, I just went on a freaking, I mean, I was just whacking everything I could. And I really got into it. So quite literally, like if I could hunt deer with a wrist rocket, I would. I use air
Sure you,
rifles,
sure you
bows.
could. You could do
I would,
anything.
oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sure I could make it happen. I mean, so I like to hunt with anything. So no, and a lot of it too. Like I started with whitetail. That's I still love hunting whitetail. Then got into hog hunting and night hunting, and that's what I really enjoy is predator hunting and nighttime hog hunting with thermals and stuff like that. So um, it's been I constantly like anything you do, right, or we do, right, in our communities, right, you constantly try to perfect your craft. So that's kind of what I try to do.
Where are you located at?
Wilmington, North Carolina.
Okay, so you're on the coast. So, um,
Yeah.
is there still a hog epidemic out that far close to the water, or do you got to get a little bit inland?
So most of my hog properties down the Calabash area. North Carolina is odd. I mean, it's parts of South Carolina too. There's pockets of hogs. So if I've heard rumors of hogs here in eastern North Carolina, I've gone and tried to find them and or killed them. It's not, if you read magazines, they'll say it's the hogs, they're everywhere and they're destructive. Well, in North Carolina, whenever people find out there's pockets of hogs, everyone's trying to go kill them. So they don't have to travel out of state to go get hogs. So they're not spreading like you would think they would. There's pockets of them around here. I know where they are, most of them. Yeah, they're not as bad as say Georgia, Florida, Texas, and those areas. They're not like that at all by any means.
For the folks listening at home, what does bad mean?
Bad would be an article I read about Texas a couple of years ago said that if they didn't kill 3 or 4 million hogs a year, that they would be overrun within 3 years, which is probably about right now. And at that time, they're only killing 1.5 million hogs a year. So that would be bad, as in do $50,000 worth of damage in a sweet potato or peanut field in a night. Bad.
And these things can reproduce, is it 10 times or 20 times over a year or some shit like that, right? Each one female.
They So a female can be bred 2 to 3 times a year. Typically, I would say it's two, but they will do it 3 times a year. And especially the hogs around here, which are a cross between like Russian, like um, Eurasian boar and feral hogs. It's kind of like the best of both worlds because those feral hogs have those farm pig genetics in them, which allows them to get bigger faster. They crap out more babies. They're like the perfect storm of hog. So they are prolific breeders.
How many um, per litter are they having? Is a litter, maybe.
Yeah, litter. Yeah. So typically, if it's the hog's first time, so they're also ready to be bred in about 3 months after they're born. Like it can conceptually happen. Um, First time that they have a litter, I usually see one or two, maybe three that make it. The next time they're bred, 3 or 4 will make it. And then once you get a big, and I know which ones the breeder sows look like, they'll crap out 10, 12 babies like it's nobody's business. And, out of those 10 or 12, at least 8 of them will make it to maturity. So unless one of my clients shoots them when they're bacon bits, and that happens sometimes too. But
Uh,
um,
so if you, so one big female hog could through having its babies and then they immediately start making, um, you could have hundreds in a year coming from one.
yeah. And and I've seen boars breed sows while they're nursing a litter of piglets, like witness that happening. So like they don't they don't care. Like, hey, she's in heat, let's go, we're getting to it. Like I said, prolific breeders.
Well, it seems it's become a like a what's the word? Boutique business for some folks of the like a novelty boutique business of taking city boys up in helicopters and giving them 458s and shooting
Oh
hogs.
yeah. If I had $1 for every time someone asked me if I did helicopter hog hunts, like I would be a rich dude, right? I'm like, look, man, I'm in Eastern North Carolina. It's like triple campy jungle. This isn't Texas, right? Where you kind of got the mesquite and the that not as much foliage, and you can get on them out of the helo. I haven't gotten to do that yet, and I want to really bad. So if anybody listening, if you want to take me on a helicopter hog hunt, right, just hit me up. I'm all in because it'd be super fun. But yeah, that's definitely a boutique business. Um, and I mean, it's pricey. I think it's like $1,800 for an hour or something like that. But I mean, you're stacking bodies out of a helicopter. I mean, that's pretty much like the peak of manliness, I think.
Uh, Good friend of mine, Travis Wilson at Alpha Elite Performance Outdoors, has taken some veterans up in the helicopter and done some hunts. I don't know which company he does it with. Otherwise, I would give them a shout out as well. But it looks pretty fun, you know.
100%. 100%. And the nighttime hunting, it's like a boutique niche thing too, because normal people don't get to get out there with like night. I've got like 4 guns with night vision. I'll rent the guys or have the guys use, and I've got like 4 guns with thermals on them, and everybody loves to go skulking around on a spot and stalk at night with thermals and guns on tripods.
That's the ultimate, like when you're a little kid playing. What did we used to play? Cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians, and it's dark out and you can't see, and you got, you don't have, but now you get to do it in real life. So it's you just this little kid again when somebody hands you a
Yeah,
thermal. And I mean, I don't care, we had it in the military or whatever, but even still, when somebody hands it to me, I'm like, this is pretty cool, man.
yeah,
And the
100%.
technology is so good now. It looks
Yeah,
kind of like this, just a little different shade, and it's pretty crazy when you put some of those things on. So I get that, you know.
absolutely. When I've got, team guys that are like, holy shit, these thermals are better than the ones we have at work and they're lighter and they do all this awesome stuff. They're like super impressed. And, thermal hunting, especially coyote hunting, is super good training for guys because from the standing 300 yards, you got to put a shot on a 4-inch kill zone on a dog. That may or may not, hopefully it's standing still, but you don't make a good shot, then it's running. Then you got to lead it and do all this other stuff. And I've seen some of the best, snipers and, operators I know go to hell in a handbag while they're coyote hunting. So it's good training too for military guys, and it's fun. Who doesn't like skulking around at night?
um, a lot of people don't. The ones that don't do well at late night land nav, things like that. But
Yeah, get fair point on that one.
if it's different when you got the thermals and you can see, but they're like, all right, candidate, go find those points. Don't lose your headlamp. Also, there's hillbillies out there. Be careful. What the fuck do you mean there's
Right.
hillbillies out there? So, but no,
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's the technology is so much better than people think it is. So, I just encourage you to go watch some videos on that, and just for situational awareness and see what that's like, because it's always advancing. It's pretty cool. But the I was just in kind of central North Carolina. I was in Harmony, North Carolina for the Mountain Readiness Expo. That might be something you want
Yep.
to check out. I don't know if you'd have anything there, but it's getting bigger every year. A lot of like preppers and homestead type of things. And there was this company there, Brush Beater, and he was displaying all of his night vision and stuff there as well. So it's just a good collection of. I love North Carolina, man. I don't know what it is. But it seems like all Green Berets. It's like a magnet. to North Carolina. I'm going
Yeah.
there every so often. It's like they light the beacons, and I gotta go visit, But it's just where we all is. People are
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it's nice. I like it.
They're coming home for you guys, you know?
It well, yeah. Uh, One like strange thing is, and this I'm not saying I'm cool, right? Being a Green Beret in Wisconsin is a lot cooler than being a Green Beret in North Carolina.
I believe that wholeheartedly. I get that.
There's nobody
I mean,
here. I joke that I'm the most famous Green Beret in Wisconsin because there's nobody here. It's just a joke. But at that mountain readiness event, there was only a couple thousand people that went through there. Fucking like there was 15 or 20 Green Berets there at any given time, and you could see them all over. So it's just not you're just not as cool as you think you are. Again, let me clarify.
right.
I don't think I'm cool at all. I'm the least cool. So, but I'm sitting in my basement talking to a television screen and a webcam, so trying to get people to
I
follow
mean,
me.
you're the
But
coolest Green Beret in Wisconsin, though. You know what I'm saying? So there's that.
bro, I made that joke, and then I had a guest on, and he's from right down the street, like two streets over, and luckily his page is he's anonymous, but I was like, God damn it, I'm not even the fucking coolest Green Beret in my town.
He's two streets over.
He's right there. He's just right over there. Like, fuck, God damn it, man. So, um, no, that's fun, man. But how did you? Have you always lived in? Are you from North Carolina originally?
No, I'm originally from upstate New York, Rochester area,
Oh yeah,
little
you said that.
town called New York. Yeah.
You don't want to. You don't
Um,
want to be in New York.
no, hell to the no. No, never. Look, I've traveled the whole world, and upstate New York, like the Finger Lakes region, it's some of the most beautiful area in the entire world, and I love it up there. I really do. However, I've got like 2,000 years of felonies in my gun safe, and I've all guns that are legal here in North Carolina. And yeah, no, not doing it, not going back. Um, that for starters, right? Their politics and about half the frickin' district of New York City is moving down here in North Carolina anyway. So if I need New York, I can just go a couple doors down and talk to somebody from with a different accent than me and get my fill of New York.
For
So
my listeners that
yeah,
for
no,
my
I'm not moving
listeners that
back.
don't live, for my listeners that don't live in North Carolina, which is a significant amount of the people who listen to me, um, North Carolina, I've heard referred to as a halfback state because everybody from New York moves down to Florida. They figure out that they don't like it down there, and then they move halfway back to North Carolina, and they settle on that as like they're getting out of the city sort of thing. So you see a lot of people from New York down your way?
Yeah, yeah. Bunch of the people in my neighborhood are from Long Island and sold their houses there, moved here, and we're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm rich compared to living back in New York. Cost of living's less, pace of life is slower. They like it. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, Wilmington's infrastructure cannot handle what we have, so that's a whole nother discussion. But
It's
yeah, I just leave your politics up there, people. Leave your politics up there. We don't need that crap down here.
they don't. Everybody, it's not as bad. Like it's not as self-serving. It's where that blows.
Yeah,
So my wife is from South Africa, right? And when I tell her about this stuff, about some stuff is illegal in the United States, but it's legal in certain states, or something's illegal in a state but legal in the United States, it's very hard for her to comprehend. She goes, "What the fuck do you mean?" I was like, "Well, we had a big
yeah,
war in like 1861 to 1865, and everybody was invited, and ever since then, the states have been able to do whatever the fuck they want." And she goes, "That doesn't make any sense." I know. When I say it out loud, it doesn't make any sense either, but that's just kind of how it is. It's crazy that like where I'm at here, everything in my house is legal. But I go 20 minutes down the road here to Illinois, and I'm
Uh,
fucking going to federal, or not going to federal prison. I'm going to fucking state prison down in bumfuck Illinois for
yeah,
basically being a terrorist.
yeah. Just because you have a AR with a suppressor. I
Not
mean,
even
same
that.
with
An
New York.
AR, and just an AR in Illinois is illegal.
Right. Right. Which like boggles my mind, right? I mean, like, I mean, most people don't understand their state constitutions and the federal constitution. People don't even, I mean, kids don't get taught the Constitution in school anymore, so I guess we can't expect them to know. But like the amount of adults that don't understand, right? That say, like New York has a gun registry. That's federally illegal. I'm sure that Illinois does too because it's Illinois. Um, or that three-letter agencies are constitutionally illegal. So they should not even be a thing. But nobody knows that.
Well, you know, it's something's legal until it's challenged, right? And then to challenge something, you have to have money to bring it to court and then get it seen by the lowest level, and then the next one, the next one, the next step. It's very expensive to prove something wrong uh, with the way things are set up. It's like, perfect example in my world, fitness, right? There's a lot of supplements with illegal shit in them, but there's so many of them that somebody has to make a complaint against one, and then the FDA has to investigate it, which is expensive, and they only have so many people, so they can only do so many at a time. And by the time they get to figure out what's in the shit, oh shit, let me take that ingredient out. They close the business, open it up under a new name, and do the same exact thing. So now, does
100%.
that make it right? No. Uh, does it is that a blank, or are these things in the opinion of most of the citizens? No, but huge concentrations of people that live in cities make decisions for everyone that lives in the country. Illinois is a perfect example of that. Washington, overwhelming. Whatever Seattle wants, the rest of the state gets. So, but you look at it from the other perspective of the people that live in cities. They have no idea what goes on out in the country. They don't care. They have their perspective of, we need to abate these certain issues, and this is a way we're going to go after it. Um, is that working? I don't know. Probably not. Um, there's bigger issues there.
From a like a UW side of things, right? Right. If I be in, because I do some contracting a couple times a year, helping MARSOC out there during a bridge exercise, which is like your guys' Robin Sage. It's like, imagine if we cut, like, what are the things that you go after, like infrastructure and stuff. You're like, imagine if we shut the power off to every major city on the East Coast in the middle of August for 1 week. Can you fathom the madness that would happen? You know what I mean? All these people that are making these decisions in the cities for, they're like, you named all the states already. Like District of New York City is what runs New York as well. You know what I mean? But like the madness that would come out of that happening would just be it change the landscape.
Yeah. Now, to clarify, I don't have all the answers. If I did, I wouldn't be sitting in my basement right now. I'm just trying to help my little subsection of the veteran community talk about their
Yeah,
problems, or at least see other people talk about their problems. I don't have all the
100%.
solutions.
I'm
So,
with you.
but I would
Me
love
neither.
if you want to shit on me in the comments. Love it. Get in there, fucking get in there and say this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Because, but that's one thing. Um, we go back into that like transition journey, right? You become, I don't know. Obviously, the older you get, hopefully, the more mature you get. And I can see other people's like perspectives. Like, I talked to a medic in North Carolina when I was down there for the hurricane relief, and he was downtown San Francisco during the COVID, like initial, when all that shit goes on. He goes, it was fucking terrible, man. We were negative 60 ambulances. So there were 60 emergencies in the queue, and every time they would finish a call, knew they were going to have one for the next full shift. Right? Weren't digging themselves out of that hole. And he's like, it was fucking terrible. People were just dying getting into the ambulance and things like that. And the things you're saying is horrible things. But you go over here, nobody's ever fucking heard of COVID. Like just down the street from here, it's just farm fields. There's nothing. Like there's no way these people out here can understand anything about that, and vice versa. So I get it. I try and see things from more from perspective. Do I agree with them? No. Am I gonna, shit on these people for what they think? Maybe by myself, alone, not on record, maybe. But I'm not gonna be negative on on public to people, because that's not fucking helpful. You know, fighting with
Yeah.
people about what they believe and not trying to understand what they believe. Now, if they're an asshole, they're an asshole. Fuck them. I don't need to be friends with you. I'll listen to you. I don't need to be friends with you, and things like that. But you know, I hope. I hope that.
Typically,
Go ahead.
yeah. No, I typically just ask people like, "Hey, what's your solution?" It's easy to complain, right? But do you have a solution? Do you have a solution to what what your bitch is? Because if you have a solution, then we can start a conversation, right? And I think a big problem these days is that people aren't able to have a two-way conversation and either agree, disagree, flat out disagree, but respect each other enough to walk away. But and when I ask them like, hey, what's your solution to your complaint? It generally fosters some thought, you know. Um, so I, I'm with you about not
Yeah.
shitting on everybody. I mean, I try to
Yeah.
not shit on everybody, but sometimes, you know.
No. And yeah, be positive. But um, I do. I think way too many people get worked out about things that they have no chance of changing. There's like no
100%.
chance of you affecting this. Like, don't worry about that. Maybe just get yourself to a point where you can help the people directly close to you and things like that, and get to that point, because some of these things are so far out of our control that we're getting spun up over nothing. Like there's nothing I can do about the decisions they're making in government. I don't like it. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't fucking. I'm not going to get stressed out about it and things like that. But at least, yeah, if there's different laws in different states, you can kind of move around and things and affect the things that you can affect, and try not to
Yeah.
let some of these things drag you down. And as you said,
100%.
get outdoors, go on a hunt, find a veteran community, and be part of something, and talk to your
Yeah.
friends. So I don't know, man,
Yeah.
but I was going through your bio and stuff. So you enlisted in the Marines. Were you 18 when you enlisted, just like every other Marine?
I was 17 actually, which probably makes me dumber than most, but yeah, 17.
So you really didn't know what the fuck you were doing. Um, so 1 year before the big dance started, you decided, I'm gonna go be a Marine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was that or farm, you know. So Marines it was, and my mom I think, was pretty happy to get me out of the house anyway. So
Didn't want to be a farmer.
yes, I did, but no, I didn't. Yeah, I knew that if I would have gone into business with my dad, we would have expanded our farm. I knew that I would be tied to the farm probably for the rest of my life had we done that. And me and my dad have talked about that a lot. I mean, we ended up selling the farm because he asked me, "Do you want to go into business with me?" And I said no. So we ended up selling the farm. Then I went in the Marine Corps, a year later or so. And now he's a vice president at a huge paving firm, road construction firm up in upstate New York. And we've talked about it a lot because there's aspects of it I miss, but it's a hard way to make a living, especially in the last 30 years. So Marine Corps was.
Um, you had said milk and cows. Were you a dairy? Was it dairy farmer?
Yep, dairy farm.
That's rough. That's probably the most scrutinized of all of the farming, right? Because you've got state, local, and federal regulations of checking all your shit at any time, all the time, of how how well you're handling the milk. Is that at least how it is here in Wisconsin? Is it true up there in New
Yep.
York?
So yeah, the exact same.
Yeah, that's brutal. I was talking to a farmer here, and he goes, "Yeah, they just he's like, we passed the state and then we passed the federal, and then this local kid shows up and like shuts us down for a fan, an exhaust fan not working properly or something like that. It like had gone out that day, and like that was the straw that broke the camel's back. He's like, fuck this. The whole family's like, we're not doing this shit. And they shut down and sold all the equipment, and all the cows went to the processing plant. Like, done. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
It's it's a rough time in America for family farmers these days. You can't, you know, we only, I think at our peak we milked 120 cows. You can't survive doing that these days, not at all. You need to milk, 500 to 1,000 bare minimum if you want to, and then not have a lot of loans to try to make a living, make an attempt at it. So, but yeah, that's a rough way to make a living for sure.
Why is it? Like, is it just the the amount you're putting out versus how much it costs to keep a farm going, or why is it easier for the bigger enterprises?
The price of milk now, last time I checked, is lower than it was in like 1975. My dad probably he keeps an eye on that stuff. He probably knows directly. But when my dad first started farming, he started his own farm by himself when he was 17. He was originally, I was born in New Jersey. We moved to New York when I was 5. But my dad is still known in New Jersey as the best dairyman that there ever was. He's got trophies at the house, all this stuff. I mean, he was legendary for the herd of cows that he had. We moved to New York. Almost every single one of our cows that we brought from New Jersey died, and milk price went down, and the milk price has never come back up. So obviously, the more cows that you milk, the more milk and money you can make. But like, I have a buddy back home. His name's Donnie, and his operation is so extensive. He's got an engineering degree. He went to Germany, bought a digester. So all the cow shit goes into this digester, sucks the methane out. The methane powers the farm and the local grid to the almost, I think they bring in about 100, 150 grand a year from the power company. And then the dried cow shit comes out the other end of the digester. They use it for bedding. They sell the bedding to other farmers, or the dried shit. And then they sell their milk to a yogurt plant. The yogurt plant pays them to take away the excess whey. So how much do we pay in the store for 5 pounds of protein these days? Like $80, maybe 60, 70. It's
I don't want
expensive,
to. I don't want to get into how much I
right?
spend on whey
Right.
protein
So
here in public.
so think
It's
about this. Yeah, the yogurt plant is paying my buddy to take tractor trailer loads of excess whey back. He sprays the whey, liquid whey, onto the cow's food so they get more protein, puts the rest in the digester, which powers the farm. It's a self-sustaining operation. He's milking cows 22 out of 24 hours a day, 3 times a day. So it's wild. And so you can make money if you do it that way. But I mean, think about that kind of operation. It's wild. So
that's a lot going on. Like,
yeah,
you got to have
yeah, it's a
people
lot.
awake all the time at that point, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's craziness. Like
I,
he's an app on his phone. We could be
yeah.
drinking a beer and his phone goes off. He's like, I go to the farm. The digester's acting up. Boom, leaves. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, there's always something going wrong on a farm, even if you only have a few animals.
always.
There's some goat stuck in the fence. It's got its horn stuck in the fence, or the cat's in the has fallen into the watering trough or something. Like there's always something going wrong. There's always, always,
Always
always.
something going on a farm. Yeah. Yeah. So the Marine Corps was instead of that.
I get it, you know. And you get to leave home and go. And at the time, you got there. 9/11 hasn't happened yet. You're a year before that. You don't know that's coming, the shitstorm that's going to be coming for you at this point. So, what were you enlisting for primarily when you signed up? Because like I said, 9/11's not here yet, and you don't know it's coming.
The infantry. Um, in a very immature, like, rationale of thought or line of thinking, rather. I'm like, look, Marines are the first to fight. I mean, we talked to the Army recruiter. He was a little pushy, and we're like, man, nah, we're not going to do that. Um, Marine Corps, it's like, hey, look, these guys are the first to fight. So if we're going to see some action, it's probably going to be at the Marine Corps. Like, if we want to shoot people, we definitely need to be in the infantry, right? So, like, Marine Corps infantry, here we go. Like, sign us up. Let's go. Um, that was the line of thinking, So when, went in August of 2000, and when, 9/11 happened, we were actually out at Fort Bragg doing a trench clearing range. Like, literally on 9/11, they called us cold in the middle of the trench clearing range, because, the second plane hit the towers. So,
I've had a lot of guests on that were on Fort Bragg, or stationed at Fort Bragg on 9/11, and so you go to you guys, your initial, is it called, basic training, or for you guys, or boot camp?
boot camp, basic
Boot
training.
camp,
Yeah.
basically. And so when did you get to your unit, and where was that at?
I got, so finished the School of Infantry January of 2001, and then my first unit was 2nd Battalion, 6th Marines here on Camp Lejeune. And that was a that was a um I guess, it's funny now, but it was a kind of a rude awakening going from the School of Infantry, to the unit, because, man, it's like getting thrown in the, like, cool, man. I did boot camp, I did the School of Infantry, right? Then, like, you get thrown into the meat grinder that is your first unit, you know, and you're the boot, you're the new guy that just gets fucked with mercilessly. So it's just getting thrown right into the fire.
So we have the, videos or whatever the Marine Corps puts out about basic training, right? And how regimented it is. How close is what the people's perspective of basic, or Marine, or initial entry training to what's in the media? Is it pretty accurate?
It's pretty damn close. Like, if you watch Full Metal Jacket, like, is it that extreme? No, drill instructors aren't beating the shit out of you, stuff like that. But it's pretty close. And if you're one of those dudes who never played sports, or had coaches yell at you, or never had anyone yell at you, it's probably a rough transition. You know what I mean? I had some pretty hardcore coaches growing up, and my mom was a hell of a disciplinarian, ran a tight ship. So, like, boot camp wasn't that bad for me, but, like, when a dude's got a campaign cover who's shorter than you, and it's like smacking you in the nose, and he's spitting all over you, and, for some perceived slight, something that you may or may not have done. You can't say anything about it. You're standing in a position of attention. It's definitely, it's definitely, um, can be intense. It's pretty freaking accurate, I think. Um,
As you're
it's
saying
pretty
that,
accurate.
I had a friend, and he got back. He's on block leave or something like that. And he's home, and he goes, "Man, that was fucking terrible." I said, "Yeah," and then he starts telling stories, and I was like, "Yeah, how so?" And he goes, "You're not gonna believe this, but this one dipshit, he got caught stealing peanut butter from the chow hall." I was like, "Oh, okay, stealing peanut butter. That sounds." What happened to him? Did he get fucked up? Like, did it PT him? He's like, no, worse. He made that dude sit in front of a mirror for like 4 hours and say, I didn't steal the peanut butter. You stole the peanut butter. And the dude was fucking like crying and shit, just yelling. And then every once in a while, he'd stick his head out of his office and go, louder. I can't hear you. She's like, I didn't steal the
Yeah.
peanut butter. You stole the peanut butter. Like, that's fucked up, man. I wonder what that dude's doing today.
Yeah. It's the mastery of the mind games is what like boot camp is. Like, all right, we can't hit these dudes anymore, right? And there was still there was dudes who got their hands put on them, like when I went through boot camp, but it wasn't not anything extreme, right? Like people think about, like dudes aren't just getting their asses beat, you know. Um, no, nothing like that. But like it's the mastery of mind games that these dudes perfect, right? And it's because from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep, somebody is fucking watching you, right? They like you're always afraid of something, right? And it's like the best way to leave the island is by graduating, right? And that's the truth, honestly, right? But it's like you're scared of getting hurt, right? Like I'm like, oh my god, what if I get a fucking shin splint or a stress fracture, right? And then you're like, so you're worried about that, right? Even though I had nothing to worry about, I've been walking around in fucking boots for my entire life on the farm. You're like, what the hell was I even worried about that? I don't even know why I was worried about that. That's dumb. I'm an athlete. Obviously I'm not getting hurt, in boot camp anyways, but, and then it's like, right, you're worried about like failing a test or you're worried about the PT, right? Or like there's always something that they're trying to fuck with your head about, right? And it like, they're just trying to, break you down, right? The bare bones mentally so they can build you back up the Marine Corps way. But that's part of the way that they do it, like my two friends from my hometown, my best friend and another dude came in with me. We're in the same platoon in boot camp too. So I knew a bunch of guys, and from my other poolies actually were my platoon as well. But like my best friend from back home, he got stuck up on the quarterdeck one time with this kid, and his name was Bringard, and I don't know how I still remember that to this day, but maybe because we picked this kid up from the medical rehab platoon. He just had one, people who have those whiny just cunty voices, like, just like that kid had that voice. And they're like, he's out there getting thrashed on the quarter deck, and the kid like starts crying, right? And the drill instructor's like, what's your fucking problem? He's like, this recruit misses his sister, in the most sniveling, whiny voice I have ever heard. And dude, you might as well have dumped 50 gallons of shark chum in the fucking water and off the coast of South Africa during great white mating season, because dude, every DI came out of their little hooch like, what, your sister, like, losing their marbles, and the kid's up there sobbing. My buddy's pushing because he happens to be caught up there in this debacle, right? And my buddy got so mad he stood up and started kicking him in the ribs, like, motherfucker, Bringer, fucking push, right? Like, I'm getting thrashed because of you, right? And they had to pull him off, and but like, so they have this unique way of breaking you down that way. So I mean, it's the mind games they play.
Yeah, there's nothing correct to say in that situation except for nothing. Like,
No, do
you
not say that.
don't say that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's probably towards
yeah,
the far end of shit you don't want to say. Um, Stopping short of telling them to go fuck themselves or something like that. They can only go a couple shades worse than that. Yeah, but
yeah.
you make it through that, and that's shitty enough. And then you go to infantry school, and that's probably even shittier. Did you have in your mind like it's going to get better when I get to my unit, and then it doesn't?
Man, I don't I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, to be honest with you. Right? Like, man, I'm a United States Marine. I'm a freaking grunt. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go and own this shit. Nope, didn't happen like that. Like, couple problems with me. I'm 6'4", right? Like weigh like two. Probably then I came out of boot camp weighing 205. Looked like a freaking Holocaust victim because I didn't get to eat a lot because I was a squad leader. Um, but probably then when I graduated school of infantry, I was probably like 225, ish. I'm a big dude, so I'm pretty easily noticeable, and I have at times been a hothead and I have a big mouth, right? That whole silent professional thing that really never stuck with me. I also believe that's a mark of weak leadership to say that, but it's a whole different thing, right? But so when we got to 2-6, right? I'm like, hell, here we are, man. The infantry, we've arrived, right? Well, very quickly I learned that there's a pecking order there, and I was not anywhere near the top of it, and that it's best to do your best to lay low and not be noticed.
That's a Marine Corps thing, right? Everything's rank and file. Like, you will dress right dress, you will form up a certain way, you're going to dress a certain way, you're going to listen to exactly what the people that are in charge of you have to say, and you're only going to be allowed to stand out or given the opportunity to stand out when we tell you, okay, it's okay to stand out right now. Like, okay, it's PT test time. Now is the time to stand out. But otherwise, if you're a private, shut the fuck up. Am I
Yeah.
wrong in saying that?
No, you're not wrong, especially pre-war. So pre-war, like we would do wall locker inspections, and I'll tell you one thing, man, I am not a inspection Marine. I mean, my uniform wise, I put my uniform on, it's going to look good, obviously. But when I'm talking about inspections, like you got to have your skivvy shirts folded 6 inches by 6 inches, underwear. It's all got to be marked in a certain place, right? Like I'm so bad at it that I had a foot locker of all inspection gear that I never had any intention on using. It just sat there neatly folded. So I did inspection. I could just pull it out, you know? So like we would do wall locker inspections. We had uniform inspections. We had like, you name it, we had inspections for everything. And back then, like when you put on your deuce gear, your 782 gear, whatever you want to call it, right? Like your butt pack is in the middle, canteens are next to it, magazine pouches that way, because everything has to be the same because that's good order and discipline. You know what I mean? And like, uh, they say bored Marines are problem Marines, which is definitely true, right? Like, so now there's people struggling, right? The war is over and people are struggling. Like, what do we do to bring discipline back to our units? Well, here, you can hire me as a freaking consultant. I'll show you what to do, right? Because you also got to keep the reason why people don't know this, the reason why Marines are so effective and why they just destroy everything they come into contact with in combat is because the Marine Corps has this knack of keeping you pissed off all the time, right? Like angry Marines are effective Marines, right? So it's like, man, another fucking inspection, right? Another this. And they always have a knack, like pre-war, like we always had something that we were doing, right? Because we're either going to the field training, right? Or we were doing some kind of like, I'd much rather be in the field training than be back in garrison where you PT, you clean weapons, you do knowledge classes, and then you do inspections and get fucked with, right? At least in the field you're training, you know? So,
That's a good point, right? Because it's 25 years ago that you came in, and anybody that came in 25 years ago is equivalent to a colonel or a 1 star or 2 star sergeant major, or higher at
yeah.
this point if they have stayed in. So you're pretty far from the lowest level. So all that pre-war leadership abilities or how to lead Marines, that's all phased out over 22 years of the global war on terrorism. And it's not completely gone. It still exists at some level, but they're doing other shit, managing tens of thousands of troops, of Marines. And so there's just things that are lost. And it's not that long ago, right? It's
No,
just,
it's not.
it, but that's what happens when as time as you get away from those things. And some things are going to be the same, right? I feel that you guys have stuck to the script probably the best over the last 25 years. You and the Rangers, right? They don't deviate for
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
anything. Like that's you're a Ranger, you're a Ranger. The only way out's to die or go to Delta. Um,
yeah.
and Marines,
Go take the walk. Yeah.
yeah, go to long walk.
That's so true.
But and for you guys, it's do your enlistment, join the National Army National Guard, and what was the meme the other day? And then reminisce about the Marines or something like that. But
Dude,
um,
I mean, I'll be, you know, I got out. I actually got out after my first 4 years in the Marine Corps. Went to college, played lacrosse, did the reserves. Actually put in an X-ray contract, but they wouldn't give me a bonus because I was prior service. So I told them to go stick it where the sun don't shine, which in hindsight was completely stupid, by the way. But whatever, a whole different story. But yeah, so I freaking, like I'm like, oh, cool, I'll get to keep my rank, this and that. But they're giving dudes off the street 30 grand, and they were giving guys who reenlist 100 grand. But I was prior service, so I got no grand. So I was like, well, if I'm going to get nothing, I'm just going to go back to Marine Corps and go to Recon. But my time in the grunts, I did get. I mean, it was a lot of. I mean, I did. We were like the first. Well, February of 2002 is when we went out after 9/11. I also got to do the invasion. Then I went to Japan, did the Philippines, whatever. But as a young grunt, the best thing that I did was this thing called Super Squad, and it's a infantry squad competition. So they'd start at the battalion level. If you win the battalion level, you go to the regimental level. So the best squad, right? Eventually, it's a division thing. So the best squads, infantry squads from the division, compete. And if you win, you get actually go to the White House. You get a medal from the president. And we won regiment and lost division. My squad did. I wasn't the squad leader. I was just, freaking guy in the fire team. But that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because we worked for our battalion gunner for a few months, prepping for this thing, and it taught me the ins and out, everything. Like I can still recite knowledge like off the top of my head right now, today, 24 years later, right from this thing that from Super Squad, and it built the you know building blocks for me to be a successful squad leader because I was a squad leader in the invasion at the ripe age of 20, and then a successful recon and force recon Marine too. So um, yeah, and I'll tell you, what a 20-year-old knows, right? As a leader of troops, right, in combat.
I'm 38 and I don't know jack shit. So I
As a young corporal, 20-year-old, I thought I had the world by the balls. I mean, because I did essentially, right? I'm an infantry squad leader in the United States Marine Corps, right? And I'm freaking full of piss and vinegar. Um, and I did not know a lot. I didn't know shit about leadership then. That's what I knew. I knew nothing. I knew it was spit at me at very few schools. So
yeah, I think about it now of how I am now, and when I talk to people, team sergeants, E8s, that's where I would be. That's my age right now. And yeah, thinking about it now, I could do that. I could do the job. I mean, not physically, I'm medically retired. I can't do the job, but being able to, I don't know, talk to people and like understand where they're coming from and things like that, I could do now. But then, fuck no. Like, I didn't know dick about fuck. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's
I mean,
interesting.
I was medically retired at 17 and a half as a gunny, as an E7, and I even think about now, I mean, that was 2017, and I think about, even I'm like, man, if I was on active duty right now, like you just said, right, and I was an E7, right, how would I lead? How would I treat people? How would I speak to people? Completely different, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, some of that comes with the you calm down when you get out also. Not right away, but gradually you do calm down. You start to vibrate less because when you're in, and I imagine that other units and everything, it depends on your op tempo and the people you're around and everything. But you're kind of fucking shaken all the time, and the more stressful the end state of your job is, the more you're vibrating. You're not physically vibrating, but your I don't know, spirit is, or however you want to say that, your personality is fucking shaken. And that starts to calm down as you get out. And then you kind of, as I said, you see people's perspective on things and understand the more of the why behind the things that you're doing. Might not always agree with it, but you can talk to people. So yeah, I mean, I'd be a much better soldier now than I was then. But would I volunteer to do some of that crazy shit? Probably, actually, yeah, I 100% would. Not even a question. But you can't ask the same thing of me that you can a 17-year-old kid. It's like, well, I'm not going to fucking do that, But a 17-year-old kid, yeah, absolutely, isn't even going to think twice about some of those things.
Yeah,
Now, everything that SF would ask me, yeah, I'd fucking do that. But there's no privates in special forces. Like, you're a private at an E6. Like, you've been in the Army for 3 years, you're a staff sergeant, or not 3 years, 4 years, and you're a staff sergeant, and you're junior enlisted
yeah,
as an E6. Technically, you're junior enlisted as an E6 or an E7, and your first real leadership roles when you're an E8. Yes, you have leadership roles and you have other things, but you're not in charge of a unit until you're an E8, and that's so vastly different from the regular army and things, and um,
yeah,
it's just different units and different perspectives on things.
absolutely. Um, the you know what I people have lodged a lot of comments, especially after I went on Urban Valor, and I mean, people might put comments on this episode, right? Like, how do you feel knowing that seeing the withdrawal, or seeing, knowing what you know now, right? Would it have changed anything you've done, right? And the answer is no. I would not have changed. I mean, if I went back now, would I have not made some of the mistakes I made? Sure, right? But would I change anything that I did in my career path? No, I absolutely would not. I would have gone and done it again. Um, and that's just the way that it is. You know, the,
Yeah,
I mean,
you
wars are
know,
fought. Wars are, special operations, right, plays a critical role, and it has played a critical role in the global war on terror. I mean, obviously everybody knows that. Everybody in the world, if they didn't know 25 years ago, because a lot of them kind of didn't, they all now know what American special operations forces does, right? There's no hiding that fact any longer, right? Everybody knows what it does, what y'all do, and it's stinking open source, like, for a lot of it. But major wars are fought by the 18-year-old kids, by young men and women. Um, if we go into some major war with one of our near peer adversary, because that's the hot ticket word these days, right? That's going to be a lot of young men and women in this country who are going to pay the ultimate price for that. Not us old guys.
no, people like, hey, with all the stuff going on in the news, is there any chance of you going back into the military? It's like, listen, if I'm going back, we're fucked. Like, we're all gonna fucking die if I'm going back, because
Yes, we're completely.
I may not look like it, but I'm at the bottom of the fucking list. Yeah, I did some cool shit and I got some cool ERB and all that other stuff, but I'm at the end of the list, especially being a W. Like, we're all fucking dead. If you hear Sergeant First Class Ward's going back in, fucking start driving north and get the fuck out of here, because we're all gonna die soon.
I mean, if it comes to that, and they're like, "Hey, man," like, and so I read an article. It was probably like 6 months ago now. That, like, And I can't remember who wrote it, but they're like, there is a lot of concern right now with American youth, and if a major war broke out with a near peer, that they would want to call on GWAT veterans to come back in because they know that we know how to handle business. Truth of the matter, though, is that I stay in very good contact with the Recon community because Campbell's Units, 40 minutes up the street, Second Recon and Force Company, and I work for MARSOC a couple times a year, so I kind of get to keep the pulse. And my friends are now E9s. A lot of them are retired. A couple of them are, one of them's the ops chief of Second Recon Battalion right now, but well, I get to go talk to these young dudes, young recondos, young raiders, right? These dudes uphold the standard, right? The standard that you and I consider to be the standard. They are full of piss and vinegar like we were, and they're warriors, and that's great to see. And I know the same's for you all too. So one of the guys that came on our Idaho hunt, he's now wearing his funny little green hat. So good for him there. And our buddy Hilario's sons, they just graduated, or one of them just graduated as well. So, these guys, they're holding the standard, right? There's nothing to worry about. Our country's in good hands. Um, if they call us back, and I hope they're just like, hey, look, shit really hit the fan. We need volunteers, right? Because like that's what it's going to take. Then all right, maybe if it's between me and my grandkids or kids having to go in, I guess I'll freaking pony up and go do it. But other than that, the gun belt in that arena's hung up.
Yeah, the guys that make it into insert special operations unit here, the guys that make it into that, great, fantastic. They're they would succeed at any generation, just like any generation would succeed in this generation. Given they're always going to rise to the top, right? Those are the guys that make it. The pool that we're drawing these people from is shrinking dramatically
Yeah,
every year.
yeah,
I've had a couple people on here. That's why you're seeing businesses built around getting selected or passing this course and things like that. It's just becoming more popular because I don't know. I think there's some sort of psychological operation going on behind it too, to try and get into people's heads like, hey, go try for this hard thing. As a whole concerted effort. Selection finally got an Instagram page. They're starting to get into it now. They're trying to get people ready before they even decide to commit to it, to go to these units because it's
yeah.
difficult. Um, uh, I think if
I
you can pass, you're going to pass no matter what, with or without the information. But that's because I did. Not everybody else did that. A lot of people study and get all the information. I just showed up, rose to the occasion, and then went back to being a normal dude, which I consider myself just
yeah.
a fucking normal dude. Um, but I get it. It's it's go ahead.
I think that you know psychological there's this I read this book, it's called Making the Core, and it used to be on a commandant's reading list. I don't know if it is, but it talked about how each of the services will mirror to a degree society and its decline, right? Especially it was talking about the standards, society standards decreasing, right? And inevitably the services standards are gonna do that as well. The Marine Corps is the least resistant to change, right? You guys are behind us, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, or yeah, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, right? It's a different ball of wax, right? But the psyop, right, is that over the last 25 years, especially, Americans have gotten lazy. I mean, Americans have been lazy for a long time, but from seeing you know pre-war till now, right? I mean, just in general, Americans have become fatter, lazier, and psychologically weaker. Maybe I don't. That's the best way to put it, right? But now, right? Now everyone's realizing, oh my gosh, the FDA, right, has been poisoning us, or our food is poisoning us. Like, No kidding, right? Like Americans are fat, Americans are lazy, right? Like they spend their time behind a screen of some sort, vice getting outside.
It's all of the other things that go along with the food. It's like
Right,
I
right.
I can eat like shit and still perform if I tailor my diet to just a couple things. It's the overconsumption of calories. You can still manage your calorie. There's certain things like you can eat like shit, but if you target protein and keep your calories down, you're going to gain muscle and lose weight. Like three you can eat McDonald's. Like Sam Sulek eats McDonald's and is a pro bodybuilder. Like so you can do it.
Yeah,
It's all the other shit that goes along with it that you add on to it. So there's more to the discussion than the food is poisoning you. Yeah, it's
yeah,
not great for you.
absolutely.
Like
I mean,
there's
lack of discipline,
yeah, there's way
right?
more
Lack
that
of
goes
discipline.
into that, but um yeah, it's I'm fucking lazy. I'm extremely lazy. But I'm like I try and find the lazy easy way to do something. Like this show, I found the best software that I could get to do this show because there's a lot of tools in it that allow me to edit and make clips and do all this shit that because I don't know how to use editing software or set up stuff, but YouTube does, AI does, all this other shit that they figure out how to do it.
Yeah,
All I do is take my
yeah,
notes,
you're
I do a
100%
little bit
right.
of research, and the rest is on me to talk. So, you know, but being
Yeah,
lazy and not being driven is two different things. I think there's a
yeah,
lack of because we're instant gratification, right? And some of these projects take years of hard work to do. And if you're not in high school sports or even anything in high school, you could be a theater. Like a theater production's fucking hard to put on. You got to memorize lines and you got to act and all this stuff. And that can be just as satisfying as winning a track meet or winning a wrestling match to that person. But, you know, shop class or anything, doing something for a prolonged period of time and then accomplishing something. I think that's what's missing because you do it once and then you want to do it again. You're like, I can't get enough of this. I got to do something else. I need to have instant gratification. That's kind of where it stems from. And then that gets bigger. I just always want to see the fruits of my labor instead of years and years. Like the fucking military, we didn't even know if we did a good job until we're out, until people tell us that we did a good job when we're in. Like, oh, your friends say,
yeah,
man, you were really good. Like, one of the nicest things somebody ever said about me was that they said that I was one of the best 18 Charlies they worked with. I'm like, that was fucking years ago, like 10 years in the making for that comment. And it feels so good.
yeah.
So some of these things you're not even going to know for years and years and years. Getting a beret or for you guys, what is it for you guys? You guys get a little uh, pin right with the wings.
Oh, so yes, for Recon Marines, we don't have like the Raiders. They have the
Okay.
we call it the stripper chicken. Their unit insignia. But for us, so if you're a jumper, and when you first get down to airborne school, you just have lead sleds like you all do, and then after you've done X amount of jumps, you get the Navy Marine Corps parachutist insignia, which is like the gold wings. Then if you're a diver, you get the dive bubble. So for recon force recon guys, you can tell who they are because they've got jump wings and a scuba bubble, or dive pin rather. I actually never went to dive school, and I was a recon marine for 13 years or so. And it was a kind of a funny conversation when I checked out a force company, and our battalion ops chief was like, "Hey, how come you're not a diver? How come you haven't been to dive school?" I'm like, "How come you haven't sent me? Been in this battalion for 7 years, deploying like a good ranger. Uh, you know, not going any damn. I never had a schools phase. Most guys usually have a schools phase, but I was already a sergeant when I got to the battalion. So I never really got a schools phase. I just did schools here and there. And I was like, so why haven't you sent me? I did pre-dive, did all this. And he was like, that's a really good question. And to be honest with you, like diving, like I'd wanted it strictly for extra pay. That's what I wanted it for. I hate scuba diving. I hate diving, period. Not my thing. My best friend, Kevin, he was a he was a second class Navy diver and ran dive school for the Marine Corps. He loves it, not me.
There's
But
very little air down there.
diving,
Very little air, under the water.
very little air down there, and like diving in the desert, right? Most of the places I deployed doing done anything anyway. So, but it was like the one itch, one thing I didn't get to accomplish in my career was go to dive school, but whatever, these things happen.
Well, as my listeners know, I went to a
Yeah,
dive team and it ruined my fucking life. So, uh, I fuck no, man. I went. Do you know how the do you know the breakdown of the teams? So, in
yeah, yeah.
third battalion, the five team, and it wasn't second battalion, most of, but the five team was a dive team. So I get to the company, and Sergeant Major's like, "Do you know how to swim?" No. All right. Well, you're going to the dive team. Fuck. So I
Sounds
go
right.
down there.
Sounds
I
right.
go down there. I got my case of beer. And team sergeant. Okay, blah blah blah. There's your senior. I was in the course with my senior, and then Rich was there, and all that stuff. But and then I get hurt a few months later. I don't really remember anything from getting to the team. I remember the day I got hurt, and then I skip ahead in time. But uh, no, I'm
Dang.
not. I didn't get to. I was supposed to go to the assessment course like that next Monday after our training exercise. I was going to fail that. I was going to die, or either die or fail. One of the two at that, because I couldn't do any of the events. I was terrible in the pool, and so I got hurt. Didn't have to go, and then I was never going back to a team. So, but I I want to say I think, but I don't know. With endurance stuff, I can pass all the events right now. I could go to the pool right now and pass all the events. Um, I don't know if I would be able to keep cool under the water during some of the stress tests and things like that. I would try, but I got hurt. I was bad in the pool as a result. As a civilian, a veteran, or whatever, I'm very good in the pool. I'm in the pool 3 days a week, and I swim 1,000 to 1,500 meters every other day. And so,
Nice.
but that's like a fuck you to the water because I'm afraid of the water. I have a joke that I get a check on the first of every month, and I'm afraid of the ocean. So, uh,
Man, I'm like, dude. I mean, Recon Marine, right? We're amphibious war machines. Amphibious reconnaissance is what we do. However, like I'm like a snowplow in the pool. Like we do a run, fin, run. I'd be like in the top three guys to the pool, and I'd be like middle of the pack getting out of the pool. Need to make time up on the run afterwards, because I'm just pushing water. I'm just pushing water, man. 6'4" and 240 pounds. It's a lot of body to get through the water. So
I
I feel you.
I
I feel you on that.
I feel you there too. I'm 5'11", 240, and
Yeah.
that 50
Oh,
meter
yeah.
subsurface takes a long time to do, and you just big push, and I'm like, I'm not fucking moving. God damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's good. Keeps me fit. I can and things like that. So, but like I said, there's no air under there. Fucking stupid. Good. If you're a diver, great. I'm happy for you. Not for me, as my listeners well know. But you said let's. I want to know. So what? Like, walk me through how do you get to being a force recon Marine? What is all of it? Obviously, you're a Marine first, and then how do you deviate from an infantry unit towards a specialized unit like that? What is it?
So, so back when I was in the grunt, recon would hold screeners at like 02. And sometimes you'd hear about it like word of mouth. Sometimes you'd see a flyer somewhere. And they did it at 0203 early like that because you had to go do the screener and get back to your unit for formation at 6:30 and then go do unit PT. So most of the time you go do, if you were like, hey, I'm gonna go take the recon screener, the unit's like, nope, can't do it. We can't afford to lose you, right? You hear some bullshit, right? Some sob story that they'll 2-6 golf company, therapeutic, we can't afford to lose you. The company can't afford, the battalion can't afford to lose you. You're needed. So they would run screeners at 02, 03. You'd get done and you'd get back at 6:30, and then orders would just go to the sergeant major a few weeks later that you were going to rip, and everyone have a freaking helmet fire and lose their minds because you did it behind their back, and how dare you, right? That's how they did it back then. Now it's a little bit more like, hey, you know, they put it out on Instagram, all its socials and all that, and you go take this selection screener, and you'll end up going to whatever RIP's called now. I think it's called like RTAP or something. But when I was out, I actually re-enlisted and came back in, and I got orders straight down the second recon battalion. I didn't take any screen. Went down there expecting to take a screener, but they just sent me orders down there to rip. Actually, they gave me orders to a company, and the dude who was the OOD was like, "There's no way." He's like, "Are you a recon Marine?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Where are you coming from?" I'm like, "Upstate New York, man. I just finished lacrosse season the other day and graduated college." You know what I mean? And he's like, "There's no fucking way that you have orders to a company." I'm like, "Look, man," and I don't even have my alphas on because I need to have my alphas. That's our green uniform. Like your guys is, I guess, pinks and greens now. Um, but so I didn't even have those on because I have to have them custom tailored because my shoulders are so big. So I was just in camis, and he was like, "There's no fucking way you got orders here. You're not a recon Marine. You need to go to RIP." I'm like, "Look, man, who do I got to check in with, man?" He was being a fucking dick too. Um, and George Rubel, love you, bro. What I didn't realize, I told him, like, "Look, dude, show me where I need to check in, right? Because you're a sergeant, I'm a sergeant. I have no problem beating the fuck out of you. Like, stop giving me fucking attitude. Like, what the fucking deal, right? Like, stop being a fucking dick. Like, what the fuck?" So I go check in. It was my fuck up though, because the next morning, guess who comes out for fucking PT? To PT rip. He was like one of the head rip instructors. Was the guy I was just lipping off to the day before, so that didn't really you know, work in my favor very well. But yeah, so you take a screener, and then you go to RTAP, and then you go to basic reconnaissance course, and then now they have a pipeline. So if you go through the basic reconnaissance course, you'll go to dive, jump, free fall after that, and then kind of and sear, and then go to the unit, second recon, first recon, third recon, or whatever. When I was a younger grunt, right? Hindsight being what it is. After my first deployment, we deployed on the MEU, the Marine Expeditionary Unit. For those that don't know, out on ship. We were basically the first MEU out after 9/11, and I worked for the Force Recon platoon with the Maritime Special Purpose Force. So the MEU's raid force, essentially. My infantry platoon, we worked for the Force Recon guys as their security element, almost like Rangers did for CAG back in the day. It's the same concept, basically. And I was my squad was the squad that actually went into the house on targets with these guys. And, I mean, the dudes were pipe hitters, man, and I'm like, yo, like, and everybody, like, nobody, these dudes didn't get fucked with, right? Like, most highly trained guys in the entire MEU, obviously, jump divers, right? They got to shoot all the time. They taught us stuff. Like me and my buddy Mac were the most junior guys in the squad, and they liked us probably because we didn't know any better, and like we would do whatever they wanted. Essentially, like, "Hey, come help us with this." Yep, roger that. Like, so they took us under their wing, and one of the guys in that platoon was, one of my best friends in this entire world. We ended up being a platoon for like 6 years together. Um, and I knew right then that I need to get the fuck out of the grunts and I need to go to Force Recon. Joke's on me though, because after that first deployment, and back then to go to Force Recon was very political. Like the guys in the platoon, they're like, "Hey, go take the selection or the screener because you could go to Recon Battalion or you could go to Force Recon." Right. And I didn't want to go to Recon Battalion. I wanted to go to Force Recon because that was more badass than Recon Battalion, right? In my brain, anyways. And so they're like, hey, go to the screener, right? Let them know, like, we sent you, da da da, or we'll be there, right? Not that you're going to get treated any differently. You're still going to get treated like a fucking roper, like shit. But to get there, you needed to have people vet you. Well, after that deployment, they're like, hey, if you want to be, if you want to come to Force Recon, you got to extend for 2 years. Well, at that time, I'd already kind of like was starting to, be done with Marine Corps bullshit. And I was like, man, I'm not fucking extending 2 years to do that. Right. I got 2 years left on this contract, right? Cause that's how I looked at it too. I was short sighted. I'm like, I'm not extending for 2 years. Like, extend for a year, sure. Extend for 2 years, no. Like, I'll go to the sniper platoon, right? Go over there. Like, if you want to come to the sniper platoon, you want to do the screener here, you got to extend for 2 years. Fuck that. I'll just be a fucking squad leader. I'll just stay fucking put and ride my time out. Joke's on me though, because all my buddies that went to Force Company and my buddies that went to Sniper Platoon, they didn't have to extend for shit because the invasion ended up happening. So nobody extended, right? So the joke was on me, but I mean, I still had to be a squad leader. That was cool anyway. So after I'd gotten out and, when I told the Army to go stick it where the sun don't shine because I wasn't going to do the x-ray thing, dumb again. But I was like, yeah, I'll just go back to Marine Corps and I'll go to Recon. So I had ordered straight down there, and then I spent a few months in RIP getting my shit pushed in, essentially getting thrashed a lot.
How
So,
big is this unit? How big, like overall? Are we talking like a battalion size or brigade size?
so Recon Battalion is, I mean, there's only a couple hundred. I mean, there's probably only 200 and some recon Marines in the whole Marine Corps, I would say. So, recon, when I say recon battalion, you're looking at 2 companies or 3 companies and, maybe 3 platoons of 24. I mean, no, yeah, probably 20, 22 guys in a platoon. So the recon community is not large. And you have recon battalion and you have force company, force recon, which by doctrine, right? By doctrine, battalion recon is a division asset, a Marine division asset, and they go up to 10 clicks. I don't remember exactly verbatim what it is behind enemy lines, right? The FIPA, the forward edge of the battle area. Force recon is a MEF asset, so larger, and then capable of going up to 120K behind enemy lines to do deep reconnaissance and things of that nature. So traditionally, historically, by the book, that's the delineation between the two, is who you know we work for, and then deep reconnaissance and you know not deep reconnaissance, essentially.
Okay,
Um,
but the
Now,
higher command is Marine Corps. Is you're a division asset then, like First Marine Division.
yes, yeah, yep, yep, um, yeah. So, um, I think that probably one of the things that definitely attracted me to your page and podcast, like I said before we started the show, like lesser known operators. But yeah, that's a good show for recon Marines right there, right? Because we fall into this fucked up area of being accepted by y'all, um, and we worked for task forces and do all that stuff, but we're not a soft entity at all.
I was
Um,
surprised when I looked it
it's
up. I thought for sure that it was, and It said it's it's easy classification. Does it fall under SOCOM, Special Operations Command? No. Oh, okay. Well, it's my show. I also do the scheduling and I write the rules. So I don't. Okay,
Right.
okay, Chat GPT. I don't give a fuck. So
Yeah.
it's
And then when I came in, they back when I came back in 2006, they just stood up MARSOC, Marine Special Operations Command. So they had disbanded Force Company and turned them into Marine Special Operations Battalion. And so there was this like weird time. Like when I got done with BRC, right, I could have like gone down the street down there, or stayed at the battalion. Um, and a bunch of guys that I was in RIP and Recon school, the basic reconnaissance course with, they ended up being in the very first, uh, they didn't get grandfathered in. They went in the very first individual training course to be, what's now Marine Raiders. And fast forward about 3 years, the Marine Corps realized, oh shit, by standing up MARSOC and sending Force Recon, which they should have just kept the name Force Recon, fucking dumb, whatever, whole different thing. But the Marine Corps was like, oh shit, we fucked up because we lost our deep reconnaissance asset. So we stood Force Company back up. So when I got back from Afghanistan in 2009, um, probably 6, 8, yeah, probably a year prior to that, they were already standing Force Company back up and had sent the first platoon out to deploy. So when I came back from deployment in '09, right, next, career progression, and my goal, honestly, since I'd been a Lance Corporal, like, was to be a Force Recon team leader. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to do and be. So I went to Force Company after I got home from Afghanistan.
all right. So your first deployment was with a infantry like line unit, right? And
Yeah.
and
First,
and then
first three deployments.
first three deployments. And that were those three deployments in your first enlistment?
Yep.
So you were just hopping and popping for those first few years you were in.
Yeah, we got home from that first deployment in August. Yeah, August of 2002, and then January or February of 2000. Yeah, I think January of 2003. We went to Kuwait, and then ended up going into the invasion. Then we came home from that. We were home for about a month and a half, and then we deployed to Okinawa. And then when we were in Okinawa, I took a squad of guys down to work for the task force down in Zamboanga City in the Philippines. That was honestly probably some of the most fun I ever had in my career, was working for the guys down there. Your Green Beret brothers took very good care of us. We had a great time with those dudes.
I'll be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you say whatever you want, but we have the most fun. It just sometimes that fun turns out to be a dude.
That is definitely true.
So, um,
Dude, that is definitely true. 100%. Yeah.
and
Yeah, no.
everybody kind of goes, yeah, I'll give you that one. So okay, yeah, you guys can have your fun in 10th group and 7th group and all the fucking fun you guys want. Just when you want
Yeah.
to really party, come
I
out
mean,
in
there
4th
was,
group.
yeah, I mean, I didn't, when I went down there, they had just changed the security mission from a company size to a squad size. So, and they had moved bases. So, like, I was a newly promoted infantry sergeant, eager to make a good impression on folks. And so, like, rewrote all the SOPs for security, convoy security, all that stuff. But the major down there, like, he was a Citadel grad football player, so I lifted weights with him. He brought me to dinners and meet people, and I mean, I knew the terrorist presence down there. I didn't realize the extent of it until I actually went down there and all that. And those dudes are down there, you know, hooking and jabbing. I mean, their PNF was and all that, but super great. One of the most fun times I ever had in the Marine Corps, honestly, was working for those guys down there, because um, as long as I had a plan, I was really never told no on anything, whether it's like training stuff or convoy operations, like whatever the hell I was doing. as long as I presented a tactically sound plan, like I got green lights to do whatever. So it was cool.
Yeah, the little known part of the global war on terror was the Philippines. There was some real fighting going on out there um, for years. Uh, I've had on this show because Chris Martin and Jack Shaw were killed from a roadside bomb in 2009. They were first group guys in the Philippines. And so you were there a few years before. But one interesting thing from interviewing people is I've had on a guy that was there before it happened, and then soon I'll have a guy that was there when it happened, like, you know, on that same team. And then I had a guy on that was the team that went rotated out after them, and then they went and killed those guys that and placed that roadside bomb with the Filipino military. And then he got to meet with the family of one of the guys at an event and tell them about it after years later. He just happened to meet up
Yeah.
with the family and was able to tell him the story about how they found out who did it and then took the Philippines over and they fucking killed them. So it's so interesting. There's different
That's
things
great that you
about
could
this
tell that
show.
timeline and story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's something I
that's
never
super
thought I
cool.
was because I'm in Charlie Company, 3rd Battalion for Special Forces Group, and their pictures on the hallway wall, every day when you're walking through the team room or down the hallway and everything there. And it's just interesting, like, just from this little show and doing the things I'm doing, I'm running into unexpected things I never thought would happen to be able to piece together parts of the story that I never thought I would get to just from doing this and talking to people is has been very interesting. And so that's just
Yeah, it's super
another
cool.
person that you were there, and like all these paths are crossing all the time in the military, and it's just crazy that everybody's got a story. Like I can tell you 3 other people that were also at Fort Bragg on 9/11, and they're all doing different shit, and we're freaking out our student
Yeah.
status, or we got to go be gate guard. Like I can't imagine what the fucking Marines jump through hoops like. Oh fuck.
Yo, no bullshit. We had a battalion fighting position in the middle of Fort Bragg because like we weren't like in barracks or anything. Like we were out there with like 2-man tents, like battalion area, like freaking roughing it for a month. And that shit happened, and like our asses were like triple strand concertina wire, fighting holes. Like nobody knows what the fuck is going on because like, yeah, I think like I had a cell phone with a cracked screen, like it was like and no service, anyways. You know what I mean? Like because fucking that cell phones weren't even a thing, so nobody knows what the fuck's going on. And the military, as you know, especially the Marine Corps, is really good at freaking making things sound like the damn sky is falling, right? So nobody knows what the fuck's going on. 24 years later, I'm sitting here talking to you, and I'm like, you know what? That was pretty fucking stupid, right? The knee jerk helmet fire reaction that happened. That was pretty fucking dumb, and everyone should like be semi embarrassed of themselves. But again, that's the first time America's been attacked in fucking since World War II. So maybe a little bit is acceptable, but like it's still like we went like high and to the right. Like
Oh,
yeah, it went hard in the paint, man. So
that's pretty funny. Um, okay, for listening at home, Fort Bragg's enormous. In a battalion-sized element, it's about 1,000 people. I don't know in a Marine, it's probably 800 to 1,000 people, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
you've got a headquarters and headquarters company, line companies, and then a support company. So all divided out there. And that's a good amount of space for everybody to take up. Fort Bragg's pretty big. And so you guys have just made your own field base inside of one of the training areas out on the west side of Fort Bragg. And you're just hanging out, waiting for orders from higher. And from what I know about staff and then a subordinate unit, like at the lowest level, you don't know what's going on, but they don't know what's going on either. They have no fucking idea either because they're listening to their hires and they're going, I don't think these guys know what the fuck they're talking about either. So I guess in lieu of orders, we're just gonna fucking build a hasty fighting position here on Fort Bragg and make the best of the situation.
Yeah. I mean, basically what the fuck happened. But I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
yeah, it's freaking wild, man.
Fort Bragg was an open base, and then on September 12th, you got gate guards and people checking IDs and all kinds of shit, stopping people at the gate and everything. So
Oh, yeah.
completely changed how
Campbell
everything
Jr. was
was.
the same way.
Yeah,
Yeah. You used to be able to drive through the back gate and drive straight through on 170 through 172 over to Hubert Swansboro area, and now you can't do that. I mean, I can't, but other people can't. So
I got my little ID. I can get on just fine.
I got I can go wherever the fuck I want.
Yeah, I can go to the PX. Let me on. I can get my fucking
Yeah,
cheap ramen noodles and get my gasoline. Um,
right.
I was surprised though. You know, they gave me my ID card and it doesn't expire till like 2055 or something like that. I said, wow, you guys really phone it in on this, huh? I don't have to be here back until I'm 65 years old. Oh yeah, we need to get a new picture then. It's like that's a long time from now. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
mine's like 2047.
Yeah. So well, whatever. They got their way of doing things, and we'll figure it out. But God. So, so you did your 4 trips, or you did your 4 years, got out. What was did you get a degree when you went to college?
I got an associate's degree in liberal
Okay.
arts, like pretty much the I don't know what I want to do with my life degree. Um,
Hey, you
just
got it.
yeah, I mean, honestly, getting out was probably uh, a, I consider it to be a good decision still because people are like, God, don't you regret doing that? And I don't. Because it gave me some perspective, right? I wanted to play, football or lacrosse in college. I like both sports equally, but I mean, I do love lacrosse. Just you know, that was, I guess, that's just where I wanted to go. And in the military, there's this like everybody's like, I could have played Division 1 this, and I could have played Division 1 that, and then you do unit PT, and the dude can't even catch a football. I wanted to scratch that itch and see if I could play at the collegiate level. Now, I did play at a junior college, at Monroe Community College, but I talked to the coach there. He's like, "Look, man, you'll make the team. You probably won't play." Well, I ended up being a starter and a captain both years, and first team All Region, academic All American. We were like third and fourth in the nation both years I played.
No
So
big deal.
had a good time. Yeah, no big deal.
No big
And I
deal.
was getting recruited to some good schools from there to go play. But I scratched that itch. I really didn't know what I wanted to do in the civilian world, honestly. But I still had an itch I had to scratch, in the military, and that was, to um, be a recon, force recon. And so that I made that my goal. And it helped me approach the rest of my career with a different perspective. Not that it was a contract, that it was my job. Right now it's not a 17-year-old making the decision. This is a 22, 23-year-old man, and I had kids at the
Full of
time
earthly
too.
wisdom and all of the knowledge
Oh,
of
yeah,
time and
exactly. Right.
space. Yeah.
I still didn't know shit. I didn't know shit. I sure thought I did though. But yeah. So I had this wisdom and perspective, right, that I brought when I came back in. And yeah, so that there's no wisdom there actually. Um, I'm just good at a glutton for punishment, and I can take a lot of pain and abuse. So yeah, so went back in, and went to accomplish goals.
How much abuse are we talking here? Like from start to finish, once you um, come back in, because you didn't have to do boot camp again, right? They gave you your rank, and so you did their version of selection and everything, and and then you go but it's different now. How long is it now for somebody trying to go do this?
You're, that's a really problem. I would say, I mean, you're probably between RTAP and BRC. BRC is, I think, it's like 10 weeks, I think. I mean, you're probably looking for the whole pipeline, which you're doing the RTAP or where the hell they call the primer course now and the reconnaissance course. You're probably looking at uh, 4 months there. I feel like, I guess, depends on how you perform in the primer in RTAP before BRC, and then post BRC got dive, jump, free fall, um, and sear. So you're probably looking at a year process, easy.
Okay.
I feel like, um, and maybe less. But when I went back in, we went to RIP. Like when I say pain, suffering, and abuse, right? Like um, you for some perceived slight or just for whatever, right? So like Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo was spent doing 5,000 8 counts in the pond. So like we had this little pond with about 4 to anywhere between 2 to a foot of water, 2 inches to a foot of water, depending on rain and such. And it'd be like, get in the pond, start doing 8 counts. And like we'd do thousands of 8 counts in the pond. Right. So I mean, this is post morning PT. Right. So like every Friday we had a guest instructor come for PT, and you knew by looking at the dude what PT was going to consist of. A lot of times it was to run the mile Hammock Bay and back, which is a 10-mile run. And the dude was a freaking, like, like 5-minute mile type runner guy. So it's like, keep up, motherfuckers. Um, so there's a lot of thrashings in RIP. Thrashings. So it'd be like morning PT, get a thrashing, land nav, right, or some classes more thrashing. My right, like I was in RIP for about a week, and they were like, "Hey, you're going to go to." So we used to have two schools. We had that amphibious reconnaissance school and the basic reconnaissance course. BRC was out in Coronado, it was out in Coronado. Now it's up on Pendleton, and ARS was up in Virginia, up in Little Creek, or up at a 4-story. And I was in RIP for a week, and they're like, "Look, man, you got a 300 PFT, right? So perfect PFT. You're gonna go up. You're gonna go up to ARS." And I was like, "Hey, I've never done a screener, right? So there's a key to our screener, right? And that is, so like you swim, right, in camis, no boots. You swim 500 yards. I don't remember what the time standard is right now. And then you tread water for a half an hour, for 30 minutes. Um, and then you do a rifle retrieval from the bottom of the pool over your head. And then you have to do a underwater crossover. So from the tread, you have to go underwater and swim 25 yards underwater without coming up, right? Well, I got all the other shit down pat, no big deal. Well, the first day I ever did a 25-meter or yard underwater crossover was the day I did the screener up at ARS, and I only made it like probably 10 or 12 yards. And I came up and I was like, oh fuck. And a dude who's a good friend of mine now, he was an instructor at the time. He looks at me, he's like, yeah, oh fuck is right. Go try it again. So moral of the story, didn't make it. I'm standing on the pool deck, right? I just came back in the Marine Corps, right? Back, right? A couple weeks ago. I'm standing on the pool deck, feeling pretty fucking low, like really low. I'm like, damn, I am fucked. I'm going back to the grunts, right? The next 4 years of my life's going to suck. Like, I just fucked up everything, like, terrible, like, feeling bad. And then the guy who's a platoon sergeant of RIP, who ran RIP at the time, who's lives up the road from me and very, very good friend of mine, Chad Ramsey. He was like, "Hey, Sergeant, can you tell me why you just failed the screener?" I said, "Yes, Gunny. I have never done the screener. I have never been to the pool since I've been to RIP, you know, 2 weeks ago. Right? I've never done a screener. I told the RIP staff I'd never been a screener. They told me I'd be good because I got a 300 PFT. And so I just figured that I'd just push through. Right. Well, it did not work that way. And he like looked at me dead in the eyes and he's like, "You're going to be a recon Marine." So I went back down the rip and was there for 2 more months. We did go to the pool. I did figure out how to unfuck myself on the crossover, and then went out to BRC and then freaking, crushed it out there. Uh, so that like, but I thought I was getting kicked to the grunts. Right. That's like, like I said before, right? The Marine Corps is just like nasty habit of just putting the fear of God in you sometimes, right? And for me, right then, the fear of God was going back to the grunts. That is where I did not want to go. So I mean, all ended up being good. So
What rank are you at this point?
Sergeant E5.
Okay. So, who, what's the rank of the guys you're going through with? Like,
There was a couple of other NCOs, so E4s and E5s. A lot of them were E3s, E2s. Um, and yeah, there was always some lat movers. So guys who came, like a couple guys came from already bat, a couple guys came from the grunts, a couple guys came from the air wing. A couple of my good buddies were air wingers. One of my really good buddies is he was a bulk fuel specialist. So yeah, freaking pumping gas and kicking ass. Now, and he ended up being a recon scout sniper.
yeah,
So
if you're a bad motherfucker, it doesn't matter where you come from. Like, I had a friend who was
absolutely,
a welder. Um, I had one guy on the show. He was a map maker, made maps for the army, and then just went to selection and crushed it. He said it was pretty fucking hard, hardest thing he ever did, but he still made it. You know, Green Beret. Now he's riding
yeah,
skateboards, fucking chilling. So he got his. But yeah, if you're, it
yeah,
doesn't. There's some bad motherfuckers that come from regular units in the military, and yeah,
100%.
you're gonna
My
make it.
my
You're gonna
buddy
make it.
Kevin, he was a heavy equipment. He was a heavy equipment operator. He had license to drive every piece of heavy equipment the Marine Corps had, and he's one of the best recon Marines I've ever met.
So you get through the whole process and you get to graduation. Now what? Now you go off into your next unit. How much different is that unit compared to your first time getting to your unit?
Completely different because I came to back. I was stationed at Second Recon Battalion down here on Camp Lejeune, and I was a team leader right out of the gate. Um, a bunch of the guys I had gone to recon school with, and a couple of the guys who were in the ARS class before me who lat moved over. Probably about half of us, almost in the company, were team leaders just after school. The battalion had just got back from Iraq. A bunch of guys had gotten out, moved on, PCS, all that stuff. So I was a team leader. Actually, a couple guys in my team who were in my team in RIP, in my team at BRC, and then they were in my team in Charlie Company when we got back. And they're like, God, we just can't get rid of this fucking guy. So that was humbling actually to be a team leader because I had the infantry stuff down, perfected my craft. I mean, you can always learn more, obviously, but as a squad leader and infantryman, and I still firmly believe, and I believe then that, in order to be a great recon Marine, you have to have all of the basics of the infantry down to the point where you got to walk the walk and be able to talk that talk because as a recon Marine, I'm going and supporting the infantry, right? So I have to be able to make a infantry commander feel like if he does not have a reconnaissance team out in the bush or wherever doing reconnaissance and surveillance for them gathering intelligence information, right, that they will fail. And to do that, you have to know the infantry in and out, right, to make yourself a good, a good and great Recon Marine, because you have to master those basics before you can apply, advanced level skills, if that's what you want to call it. Even though there's no such thing in tactics as advanced, I don't think, because everything's always evolving. So it was much different than when I checked in the 2.6 when I was first a grunt, because now I'm a team leader. I'm right where I want to be. And we had about 2 months before our platoon sergeant was even checked in to be our platoon sergeant. So really, the team leaders are kind of the ones who ran the show for a few months. Some of us went to schools like jump school, SEER school, stuff like that. But it was a little while. It was a few months before the whole before a platoon sergeant got there, and we started like training together as a platoon. So it was pretty freaking awesome, actually. Um, it was a super good time, and we had a great company platoon. So
Did you get fucked with a lot less there than
I did not get fucked with at all,
okay.
at all. I'm the one who did. We had a lot of new guys, so they'd probably be the ones to tell you that they got fucked with. I mean, it's kind of a weird. It's not weird. Um, we had a lot of professional young men. I would say kids because they're way younger. They were way younger than me even then, but they're not young men. Um, Men with us. So the guys that were in RIP and Recon school who are now in our teams with us, we've just been through all of this suffering together. So like some of the most professional guys also that I worked with too, because on work they knew that I was Sergeant Koup, team leader, right? And they were Lance Corporal so and so, right? And if they fucked up, they were going to get thrashed. But after work, right, we would go and party together. And our whole company, 95% of us were all guys who had been in the same classes, so we are all very very tight. So we hung out together off work, on work, and everyone strove. Everyone wanted to be like the best. So it was a super great environment that we had kind of going on. And if dudes fucked up, they knew that they were going to get thrashed. Like they're going to go do 1,008 counts. I mean, our first sergeant would hand out 8 counts, 1,008 counts like that, like it was nobody's business. So, but it was just whenever you have guys who can separate personal relationships and professional relationships, I think that's like the mark of a true professional. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what we had there.
Yeah. That still sounds, 1,008 counts. Like, oh, that sounds pretty shitty. Yeah.
It's kind of I think that like maybe I'm getting old and soft. Maybe we were too extreme. Maybe we're extremists in that. Like, because like that was the start. That was starting standard. Like you fucked up. Here, hang on, I got something in my pocket for you. Oh, there's 1,008 counts. Go get started. Um, which seems extreme, but like was just business as usual for us.
It, it just seems like that's such a long time to commit to. I guess it makes you think though about fucking up again. But
Yeah.
guys fuck up. Shit happens. Yeah. But
I mean, some guys, right? Some guys learn. You could be nice and calm, like, "Hey, man, here's what you fucked up. Don't do that again." Whatever, right? Nice and calm. They take to that. Most Marines don't, because we're Marines, and so we're inherently stupid. And most people learn by getting their asses chewed, right? And most people, learn through pain, right? So the ass chewing along with some pain served out with that makes them not make those same mistakes over again. I don't know.
you're done with it now, right? It worked. It worked then. Everything changes and
Yeah, it
evolves.
worked
So
then.
fuck.
I mean,
Whatever.
I was the recipient of as well, right? So it's not like I didn't do mine because I definitely did plenty myself.
What was it like deploying now? As so you get to the place you wanted to be. You're the guy you wanted to be, or were you at least at this point the guy you wanted to be? Were you where you thought you wanted to be?
I was. dang close to it. Um, I didn't. What really crushed me was that the last training evolution we were doing when I was in Charlie Company before we were going to deploy to Iraq was when I had my Humvee roll over and the Humvee ejected my whole team out of it. I broke all that stuff. I was laying there on the ground, like came to, like trunk ripped off and laying on my leg, and I woke up and I was like, "Oh man, I am fucked up." Like felt my teeth with my tongue. That was important. I could wiggle my toes, but I knew my leg was broken. I knew my back was broke. I knew my face was fucked up. Um, so I didn't get to deploy with my guys, and that really took me down hard because multiple doctors told me that my career was done. Like, you will not be a recon Marine. There's no way you're going to recover from this. Which, like, telling people of my mental state, shit like that, doesn't work out very well because I'm going to prove you wrong. At least try my damnedest to. So all my that's what all the guys are deployed, and I just spent this whole workup building this team, and just doing. I was exactly where I wanted to be. You know what I mean? I was exactly where I wanted to be, and I had that fucking snatched from me. Um, and so that was fucking very tough on me mentally. Why I started hunting. Um, Probably 7, 8 months, 8 months post accident. Because I actually I caught my orthopedic surgeon who had never met me. So I had all civilian doctors, but I was actually like on a med board. I caught the guy who's my orthopedic surgeon. Boards and all that stuff was very much different back then. And I got this dude to sign a paper, put me back on full duty, and I went to Summer Mountain Leaders 8 months post femur back break and all that. Which hindsight, actually, that was a mistake because my body was not prepared for that. But I went out Summer Mountain Leaders out in Bridgeport because there was no way that I was not going to be a recon Marine. So I went and got in my buddy Kevin's platoon in Alpha Company, and I started doing the whole thing over again. Um, so I had goals accomplished, and by God, I was going to do it.
I know what you mean there about getting to where you want to be, and then it's over, or it's going to look differently moving forward. Um,
Yeah,
I know what I know now. Like, there's a lot of different ways to be a Green Beret or to be who you think you need to be. I can imagine there's probably, is there, how many different ways are there to be a force recon Marine? Because how wide is your skill set? Because for ours, there's so many different fucking things you can do, but yours is
yeah.
probably pretty narrow, right?
It's it's a yes and no. You guys do have. There's so many more avenues that you guys can take. So for us, right? I can be an instructor, right? Whether that's at Special Operations Training Group, which I was an instructor there later on in my career, right? So you can be an instructor there, and you can teach CQB, or you can teach urban sniper, you can teach urban reconnaissance and surveillance, or you could be a BRC instructor. You could go be a black hat down at airborne school. I don't know why the hell do you want to do that, but you can. You can go, be a free fall instructor. There is a lot of other stuff that you can do. However, almost very similar like to the Rangers, right? If you can't uphold the standard, you're gone. You know what I mean? We're very similar in kind of Ranger bat in that way. Because every year you got to take the Recon physical assessment test. That only came about in the last like 8 years or so. But if you can't uphold the standard, you're not going to be a Recon Marine. So whereas for y'all, that you guys have other things that you can do to stay operational and relevant and stuff, and definitely less so for us. Um, so you know, prior to my accident, I was running I was running 17:33 mile, weighing, 240, 250 pounds. I always could run and ruck run very well. Post accident, I don't think I ever got down below like a 1930 maybe. And I've been in pain every day since my accident. I've had 4 knee surgeries and need another one. I look like a strapping fellow, but I'm a medical nightmare. Um, but like I was not going to stop until I couldn't physically uphold the standard anymore, if that makes sense. Um, and so, yeah, I just kept going. I mean, was that smart? Smartest thing for my body? No. But when I have when I have goals that I need to accomplish and my mind made up, I'm going to do it come hell or high water. So that's what I did.
Yeah, what do you think about that decision now that you're older, looking back on it?
Um, I would have trained smarter than I did. I don't regret the decision. I regret doing some of the things that I did, i.e., like I went and took my CrossFit level 1 certification probably 6 months prior or post surgery. Post, like I think I just got the screws pulled out of my knee like a month prior to going to do that cert. Right? Like, should I have done that at that time? Absolutely not. Should I have gone to Summer Mountain Leaders? Absolutely not. That brought made other injuries happen because of compensation and stuff like that. So I would have trained much smarter than I did, um, you back then. I met our other co-founder for the reason, Tony Cowden. I met him in Wilmington because he opened CrossFit Wilmington. I was like one of the first couple dudes to walk through his doors, and I was hobbling on a cane when I met him. That's how soon after my accident it was where I went in there. And again, should I have done that? No, I should have trained smarter. But it took me a while to figure that out too. So I don't regret it. I just should have trained smarter.
Yeah, you now that's your like your because I asked you what do you think about it? But it's tough to implement that then. It would even be tough if you knew what you know now, right? And tried to do it because
Yeah,
there's still a deployment coming up. There's some school you probably need to go to. And that looming meet the standard, right? Like
yeah,
you're in constant fear of being relief for standard from a unit. Because I know I had guys on from Ranger Battalion, and that's like at all levels until you're the fucking regimental sergeant major, like, and there's nobody that's your fucking boss. Like you're worried about it all the fucking time, like all the time.
yeah, yeah. Uh, for me, the biggest worry was not being able to lead from the front, right? To set the example for the men in my team. I felt, that being, one of the hallmarks of being a great leader is to set the example in all things, including physical fitness. Um, and that that was what really was one of the biggest like worries of mine was that I wasn't going to be able to set a good example for my guys. Um, and that's completely unrealistic, by the way, because like, if you got a dude who runs 15 minutes 3 mile, you can't freaking touch that, but very, like I said, very unrealistic. But that was like my biggest thing, was like letting my team down or not being able to show them, that I am the epitome of what a recon Marine should be. You know what I mean? Uh, that I wouldn't be able to set the standard, show them what the standard could be. And, you know, not to, I mean, it's a rational worry, obviously, but that's kind of the way that I felt. Um,
Takes a while to get into your head that I'm never going to be the fastest, smartest, best shot, most awards, most schools, all this shit. You're never going to get there at everything. You can't be the top in everything, but you can lift up the people that are in those areas that work for you. Like you said, if somebody runs a 15-minute 2 mile, that's pretty tough. That might have taken them decades to get to that point of training from there since they were a little kid to keep that up. That's fucking terrible. You know, if you got the strongest guy on your team, he started doing that when he was 12. You can't fucking go back and get to that point, but you can put that guy in a position where he can succeed and lift him up. That's really, as a great leader, being able to realize that your limitations and have the people around you work together as a team and showcase their abilities as a team and work together and find success. Doesn't always work, but
I mean, yeah, I never was a member or, any honor grad, any gung ho, any of that other hunka any schools I went to, mainly because I have a big mouth and I don't deal with bullshit. I mean, it's also why 8 years, I think, before I got my first award in the Marine Corps. Um, I don't, I just don't tolerate. I call bullshit where I see it. People don't like that trait and attribute about me. But I don't have any problem calling a spade, and especially when it comes to my men, right, and to the members of my team or my platoon, right. I'm definitely not going to be silent and let dudes get screwed over or make or bad tactical decisions happen. So that reasons like I said, 8 years before I got any awards. I mean, I did end up being Force Recon Team of the Year in 2012. But other than that, any schools I went to, not a shot in hell that I was going to be honor grad or any of that other craziness. Um, just because people don't like someone who is just real and honest and doesn't bullshit you. So, but no big.
was it ever enough though? Because you got to where you wanted to be and you were pretty much the get that where I but did you ever feel satisfied with where you were?
You know, um, it's a funny thing, right? Like I said, I always wanted to be a Force Recon team leader ever since I was in the grunts. And then I was a Force Recon team leader. And then I was selected for Force Recon Team Leader of the Year. And then I had this weird conundrum, right? Like, what now? You just accomplished the goal you set for yourself when you were a young infantryman, right? What now? And, you know, I you should always have those short, medium, long term goals, and things of that nature. And then, but that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, what now? What do I want to do now? So the next thing to me is like, all right, how can I influence the recon community? Right. So for me, that was to go be an instructor out of special operations training group. Um, and uh, somewhere in that process of me going from Force Recon to SOTG, I talked to this dude, Ron Reed, and he was like, hey, what? Or he's like, if I have some advice for you, he's like, pick two things, be so good at them that people are going to ask you about your knowledge on those topics, even if you leave the Marine Corps. Be so good at those two things that you're unfuckwithable, right? And it made a ton of sense to me, and it's advice I give the guys now. A lot of times in both of our communities, right, there are so many tasks that you have to know how to do, right? That, we always make this joke, jack of all trades, master of none. And that's a fucking that's actually a terrible attitude, right? Um, so for me, reconnaissance and surveillance and CQB are my two, those were my two things. So that's how when I went to SOTG, decided I wanted to make an impact on the recon community. And I did, because we ended up doing a curriculum rewrite. So I was super involved in that process. A lot of the SOPs that we had developed in Afghanistan in my 2009 deployment, we actually used in my force platoon, and then we implement them into curriculum as well, because we done more traditional reconnaissance and surveillance, right? As like by doctrine, right? Working for an infantry battalion, because that's who we worked for. And we had done more reconnaissance and surveillance than any recon Marines, during the war. I mean, honestly, I mean, special missions units guys don't count, but Marine Corps wise, big Marine Corps, we had done that. So that's how I wanted to impact the community. So that was like my next thing, you know what I mean? And but at that time, I hadn't focused farther into the future as to like, hey, where do I want my career to go from here? So I need to like, unfuck that and start planning the back half of my career. Cause then by that time I'd been in for 12, 13 years or whatever. I'm like, all right, now what, right? I got to start looking at the back end of this thing, right? Because all the fun after, you're a staff sergeant, once you become a gunny, all the fun is over basically. You're a platoon sergeant, that's okay. Right. Or you can go take the walk. Bunch of guys did that. I was considering filling out the paperwork to do that. And then I got, brought into NCIS and that stopped that process. But, but for, as E7 and up, right, platoon sergeant, and then after that, you're an E8, E9, you're in an ops shop, right, or you're an ops chief somewhere, or, in the Marine Corps, you can be a first sergeant or a master sergeant. It doesn't, for y'all, you can interchange, but for us, you can't. So you either you're a first sergeant, and if you go that route, you could end up in the air wing, you could end up in the grunts, you could end up at MARSOC, wherever. These are the Marine Corps type stuff. Or if you stay in the recon community and you're a master sergeant and go that route, you're going to go rot in a fucking ops office somewhere doing ops chief stuff. So like fun's over, basically at that point. Um, so yeah, I need to start planning the back half of my career there. So I, kind of was like a oh fuck moment for me, right? You accomplished this major goal that you wanted in life. Now what? Right? And for guys like us, there's always what's the next thing, you know? We joke about it when we're hunting, right? Because it's like, one more ridge. Maybe the elk are over that next ridge, right? One more ridge, right? And us as operators, like both communities, right? That's how we look at life. Like one more ridge, one more. What's the next thing? Um, Sometimes not for the betterment of us.
It's not. It if guys could at least process that it's never going to be enough. If they could just understand that and just sit on that in, while they're at their unit or what go, and when they're chasing it, and that pops into their head, hey man, this isn't going to be enough. What are we doing this for? What's it contributing towards me being, happy later, not just happy now? Um, is it going to change your decisions? No, but at least you're better informed when you're doing it and going, okay, I need to clearly define why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm at least aware that this isn't going to make me happy. It's going to be cool, but this might not make me happy in the long run. I might sacrifice a lot of things to get there, and it's never going to be enough. So, you know, can I enjoy the the cheesy saying, enjoy the journey, right? Well, enjoy it while you're doing it, because nobody fucking enjoys it in the military. And I'm starting to think that it is impossible to enjoy it because of just how the lifestyle is, because everybody I talk to on here either didn't take any time to stop and look around, or they didn't take their fucking phone out of their pocket and take any pictures. So they can't even reminisce on the times anymore because they got blown up too many times. They got too many concussions and shit. And they're like, I wish I had some pictures to reference the good times with the boys. But I was too lazy to go like this and take a picture. So
Yeah.
we just didn't think of it. So, but it's never enough. It's never going to be enough.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's crazy to talk about the picture thing. Like I see now, I see now, right? Like because guys, like my buddy Cody Alford, like he's got tons of pictures, right? And like I never let
Yeah.
any of my guys take pictures, right? I never let any of my guys take pictures. So I'm like, dude, I want no pictures, man, because like like that means there's evidence in case we did something we're not supposed to do, like OPSEC, like all that stuff. Like no pictures. None of my guys wore GoPros, none of that stuff. But now I'm like, man, damn it, we could have had a lot more kick-ass freaking pictures if I would have just allowed us to take some more fucking pictures. You know what I'm saying? Like, dang it, man. Or during the invasion, all we had was wind-up cameras. I got some pictures of that, but some of them are the inside of my rucksack, dude. Like, damn it! Like
That's
most of my pictures are up here, and when you got multiple TBIs, that highlight reel don't like highlight the way it's supposed to sometimes. Yes, you
no,
do know actually, but yeah,
it definitely doesn't. The recall is not there for certain things because sometimes, as hard as I try, I'll go back and I'll go. There's just nothing there for me to draw on, and I just can't get it. If I had a picture, yeah, I could draw back on that. But that's it's I don't get jealous of anybody's money or their fitness or their health or anything. But man, when guys are posting pictures from back in the unit or like the team or whatever of them like in their uniform doing something with the guys, I go, yeah, I'm jealous of that. I wish I had that. That that's something I wish I had, and it's gone. It's not coming back, and it's something I'm gonna have to get over. But I do get jealous of guys that have an exorbitant amount of pictures, and
yeah,
they
I'm with
don't,
you.
and they just put them up for people to see. They're not like doing it for credibility or something, just to be like, hey, look at this, this is Fort Huachuca, 2000 CX infantry tactics out in the fucking desert. Like that probably sucked while they were doing it, but it was
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun to go. I remember that guy, and I remember that guy, and these things and those memories, and reminisce on it, and and then for people that aren't here too, you go yeah because you see posts on Facebook. Hey, does anybody have pictures of when they served with so and so? And I'm not going to be one of the guys to answer that Facebook post down the road. That ain't going to be me. How did your medical retirement come about? Because you'd gone and done the instructor thing. You make gunnery sergeant, which is kind of a big deal in the Marine Corps. Um, and then it kind of had to all come to an end. Was you were just read on med pros or what?
so yeah, I mean I had been on uh limited duty like a lot. Actually, the Navy actually never took me out of there. Off the I was on limited duty in their system for 8 years straight, and unbeknownst to anybody. And then, so I had a bunch of limited duty periods for my accent. I had some so when I was at SOTG, needed to start getting myself right. So I had a bunch of knee surgeries and went to the TBI clinic and stuff like that. Also, I got court-martialed. So uh, I had bought some sappy plates when I was out training out in Vietnam. Used those for a couple of years. Receipt, stuff like that. And then I got some VBSS test sappies. So visit board search and seizure, pirate ship takedowns, essentially, layman's terms. And I got these test sappies, 2.5 pounds a piece. They float. They're awesome, right? Like they're like level 4 plates, right? With soft armor behind them. So I just sold my other ones on Lejeune yard sales because I wasn't being reconly about it. It's like, hey, I bought these things, I'll sell them. Well, I sold them to an undercover NCIS agent. I get hauled into NCIS a couple weeks later. And then, there was a 2-year investigation. And finally, they like, you know, um, mainly, I mean, not mainly because I was like, the only thing I said in NCIS was lawyer. So, um, I lawyered up from Jump Street. Um, I am going to court martial. Throughout that whole process, I'm doing all my medical stuff. Still working, by the way, right? Like teaching, instructing. I was the chief instructor of our section, so doing a great job. And get brought in the court martial and end up getting I ended up getting found guilty, even though I had the receipt. I hired a private investigator. I had a stack of evidence like that thick. People from all over Eastern North Carolina, Virginia, right? I mean, colonels, freaking sergeants major, you name it, selling all the same stuff I did. They didn't allow any of that in the evidence. During the sentencing hearing, they allowed all of that in the evidence. So my fine, my punishment, because I could have got busted down the sergeant and kicked the big chicken dinner. I got an $835 fine, which is exactly what NCIS gave me for the plates. So, like I asked my lawyer, like, what do I do now? He's like, go back to work. We slayed the prosecution. 2 weeks post court martial. As a funny aside, I could go through the whole court martial process, but some people that listen would probably construe it to be whining. But the fact of the matter is that we slayed the prosecution. The prosecutor and my lawyer, actually see my lawyer fairly often. He's a lieutenant colonel, about to retire right now. Great dude. His best friend was the prosecutor, and the prosecutor tried to give me a 6105, which is a bad piece of paperwork. Not one time, but 5 times. But individual in my command, our AOIC, Winston Tierney, and the ADGE of MSG, they sent it to court martial instead. The head juror from my court martial was sitting in my classroom 2 weeks after my court martial. So the very first, and it was for blue-green integration for the MU, and I was given the first class of the day. And when he saw me walk out of the office into the classroom, his face was like, "Oh fuck!" Right. So first break I had, I'm like, "Hey, Captain Trogdon, like outside." So I was like, "Hey," he's like, "Look, got it." I'm like, "Look, what happened, man?" Because you deliberated for 6 hours, 8 hours to find me guilty. You deliberated for 10 minutes. You gave me a $835 fine, which is less than half month's pay and allowances at an NJP. The Marine Corps would have done better if they NJP'd me than to court martial me, because we wasted $250,000 at least. My lawyer estimates of the military's money for my court martial. And the captain, he was like, "Look, man, all of us Mustangs, all of us O3Es, we thought that you were innocent. The warrant officers on the jury wanted to see you burn. They didn't like Recon Marines. They thought that all the Recon Marines who came and spoke on your behalf were arrogant. They thought you were arrogant, and they wanted to see you burn." Right? Military is not like the civilian side, right? So they convinced a couple of enlisted guys, senior enlisted guys that were there. Mind you, right, supposed to be a jury of your peers, but there was none of my peers there. There was no O3 anything, no infantry, no recon, no nothing, right? A bunch of dudes from LE battalion and Intel battalion, right? And the warrant officers wanted to see me burn. And so they're like, it was like, one vote over for me to be guilty. And that's why I was guilty. When the other evidence came in during the sentencing hearing, basically they were like, what's the minimum we can give this guy? And they're like, you can make him give back the money that NCIS gave him. And that's what they did, because they realized they fucked up. So throughout that whole process, I was doing medical stuff. And then to add insult to injury of all that, at Marine Headquarters Group, who the problem was that SOTG at the time, my Colonel Kenny, was a former enlisted Force Recon guy from First Force, been in 30 years. Great freaking guy. When I called him when I found out that the prosecutors recommended 6105, he's like, "Stop the court martial." Well, they couldn't, because he didn't have convening authority, but Marine Headquarters Group did. So all this is over. MHG wants to do an ad sep on me for staff NCO misconduct, right? And they keep telling me that it's the general's policy. It's the general's policy. Well, a good friend of mine still right now, who's actually my first sergeant during the invasion, was the MEF sergeant major. And he's like, there is no policy. That's not a policy. It's not a thing. My lawyers are calling the MHG lawyer saying, this is illegal. You cannot do that. You do not get to make up your own laws. And nobody gave a fuck, right? till my buddy Chad Ramsey, who saved my ass on the pool deck at ARS. He was my master guns at the time. He wasn't there when all this started going down. He came in right before the court martial. He was like, "What the fuck?" So Chad and the doctor from MHG went in and talked to the colonel, and it was like, "Look, this is this dude. This is his career, and this is what he's done. Right? No smirches on my record. None. No bad paperwork. No nothing. Right?" By the way, throughout this whole process, he rewrote the curriculums for all these courses. He's trained this many Recon and Force Recon Marines, done all this amazing shit, right? And then, so this, what you're doing to him is wrong. The doctor, she's like, this dude needs to go to Wounded Warrior Battalion. These are all the things that are wrong with him. Boom, 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 and read him off, right? You guys screwed this dude over. You need to send him to Wounded Warrior Battalion. And if you don't, I'm going to make sure that you're on CNN. Right? I'm sitting outside the door, so I hear this conversation going down. And the colonel literally was like, "Hey, tell that Marine I'm sorry. I just signed papers that come across my desk. Had I known any of this, I would have never sent him the court martial. I would have done the 6105 and sent him the Wounded Warrior Battalion." So I, thank you to Chad and the doctor. They both did me solid. And I went to a Wounded Warrior Battalion from there and medically retired. So definitely not the ending. It was like 17 years and a bit, right? Like definitely not the ending that I was looking for. But when you get thrown into a pile of shit, I consider that coming out like a ruby, because the alternative could have been way worse for me, way, way worse.
Yeah. Well, first thing to point out is the civilian legal system is nothing like the military code of or military uniform code of military justice (UCMJ). They're not similar. They may have similarities, but they're not similar, and not. There's nothing in there in your favor. Like it's all to punish you or to support the military. So,
It is
and those JAG
archaic.
officers that are at battalion or at brigade or division level, they're out to nail you to the cross. They're
Yeah.
so, and if you got
Yeah.
NCIS looking at you, like, shit happens, right? So I don't ever. There's only a couple crimes that military members can commit where I would go, you're a dirtbag. Everything else, I'm like, I don't give a shit, fucking,
It,
you know,
I
So
I learned you know what? I learned a lot in that process. I learned about the real Marine Corps. Um, and I learned that everything that they tell you from the day one in boot camp is a band of brothers. We always have your back, right? All that, right, is bullshit. Even people in the community, right? Because I found out very quick who my friends were and were not in the recon community as well. And most all of them, 90% of them, of guys I consider to be my friends and brothers are my friends and brothers. Some of the other ones that didn't surprise me type thing. They're like, "Yeah, you're a piece of shit." Um, but I learned that everything they tell you is bullshit and that you're a number. Right? That the Marine Corps goes on with or without me, right? Army goes on with or without you. In both of our communities, they do a very, very good job, a better job at making you feel protected and protecting you, right? But at the end of the day, big Army and big Marine Corps can come and shove it where the sun don't shine with zero lubrication, right? And that you are just a number. And that was pretty fucking difficult to stomach. That the institution, right? That this institution that I sweat, bled, and almost died for multiple fucking times, and I've watched my brothers die for, right? For these principles of honor, courage, and commitment, and all this stuff that it's all fucking fancy talk because when the rubber meets the road, the higher ups in the Marine Corps don't genuinely believe it. Right. And if they did believe it, I wouldn't have found myself in that position because if one person, so the AOIC who made that court martial happen, ruined over 10 Recon Marines careers at SOTG. He had been fired from 2 Force Recon platoons in his youth, and he was a Recon hater. That is why I end up going to freaking court martial, because he could have shut it down in 6105 me right there. But he clearly had a point to prove. And he's the worst Marine Corps leader that I've ever met in my time before or since. Right? He has a book out called No Legacy Here, and that is very indicative of who he is as a human being, period. There is no legacy there, Tierney. Right? You are a terrible leader, right? And you screwed over many people, right? But what it showed me, right? What it really showed me is that I put I put the mission, I put my men on top of, first, and on top of my own well-being, physical and mentally, especially at time, and in front of my family as well. And that's how dedicated to the mission, right, and to the standard and the community, right, the recon community that I put, and that's how laser focused I was, because when you're taking men into combat, right, there's no room and margin for error, right? You every like, and I was very, very, very strict on my teams, and and I was like, that was my sole focus, right? Was to be the best recon marine and warfighter that I could be, and to bring my men to combat and bring them all home alive, right? And I realized that I had spent so much time doing that um I don't like, that I realized that there was gonna in the future, that is not all who I was going to be. You know what I'm saying? And that I should have looked out for number one, myself, many more times in my career, and it would have been beneficial, instead of looking out for my men all the time, which a good leader should do that. And there is a lack of that across the armed services, period. People who freaking talk about troop leadership and welfare and don't do it, right? I was on the other extreme of the spectrum a lot. And I should have taken some time to care for myself just a little bit more and been a little bit more selfish every once in a while. That's what I learned from that experience. Again, would I change anything? No, right? I wouldn't change anything. I learned a lot. I learned a lot. Um, and it, that experience taught me how to more effectively mentor junior guys, who may have found their ass in a sling or not. But it definitely was a huge learning point for me. It definitely made my getting out. The year before I retired, I actually had the ability. I was on an internship as a hunting guide, so I got to kind of transition in a better way than some other guys, I'd say. But it took a long fucking time for me to make peace with what happened to me and the betrayal that I felt from that. Took me a long, long time. Probably that shit probably gave me PTSD more than fucking combat did. You know what I mean? The PSTDs rather. PSTDs before you have full blown PTSD. Um, but yeah, man, that fucking sucked. So that's kind of how retirement came about. Honestly.
Yeah, like things don't work out how you want to get out, and there's this. I don't want to dissuade anybody's beliefs. Like, that saying, like, oh, being a part of something bigger than yourself. That's true to a point. Like, the military is a fucking psychopath that doesn't give a fuck about you or your feelings or anything. It cares about itself, and progressing the ideals and missions of the United States government. You're just a little piece in it, and it will toss you to the side at the moment's notice. That becomes less and less acceptable the more stringent the requirements are to get into that unit. But if you're at the low level, but even as a whole, no matter how important you are to your unit, they'll still get rid of you because they can replace you with somebody else. There's somebody always coming in behind to replace you, and that's, you can only last so long. So there's always somebody coming behind that. But we fucking do it anyway. We do it anyway, and it sucks when we see the downside of things not working against us or not working with us. But as I said, it's only the people that you work with that care about you. It's not the position. The first sergeant that is a person might care about you. The first sergeant position does not care about you. It cares about you fitting into the organizational chart and doing your fucking job. So that's a tough one to separate in your mind because you feel like you're part of a family, but you're only a family with those people. You're not a family with the job. You're a family with those people that you served with and have a good time with and forgot to take pictures with and things like that. Those are the memories that you want to have. So it is tough to have that lesson when you learn that. You're like, yeah, maybe the military doesn't give a shit about me. Um, so,
Right.
but it's unfortunate. But like I said, I'd fucking do it again. Um, Even getting hurt and all the other shit, I'd go back and do it again, even if I knew it was going to come out the same exact way. I had a fucking blast. But that time's
Yep.
over now, and now you're on to killing fucking anything that walks and hogs and gators and what else are you guys killing over there?
Oh man, so dude, iguanas with air rifles down in Florida. Which if you've never done that, it is again, it's one of those things like all the stuff you thought you were going to do in the military, like skulk around West Palm Beach with air rifles and shooting iguanas like cars are going by, people are waving or flipping you off. I mean, either or. Um, you know, shooting invasive species in the middle of an urban area is just like, dude, right up guys like our alley. You know, you're like sitting in an urban hide and you're like, dude, I could just, man, from here, I could, but then you're out there, you're like iguana and you got, the kill zone on iguana is like the size of an aspirin. So, and you obviously, you got cars driving by and all that. You have to be precise. So it's crazy fun. We do a lot of predator hunting and predator tournaments because one, I love it, and it's maximum camaraderie. It's low stress. So you drive from spot to spot. Guys are bullshitting in the truck, talking about whatever, whether it's predator hunting itself or getting to know each other, whatever. Get to a spot, you call for 20 minutes, might call out no coyotes, might call out six, you don't know. And then, so we do these tournaments, which are weekend long, and guys just love it. With Tyler Vargas, Andrews, um, one arm, one leg that got injured at Abbey Gate, got him on his first coyote year before last, and he came back this year and just jazzed up. It's a great time. Hog hunts, deer hunts. We have some hunts. Like I've been doing a few hunts since, I don't know, maybe 2011. One place down in South Carolina called Featherhorn Farm. Now I get to bring guys from my organization there. Just great community of patriots down there. Open up their hunting clubs and their personal properties for guys to hunt. So we do that. Um, we got some elk and mule deer hunting out in Colorado and pronghorn hunting out in Colorado. We actually just stood up a whole team. Well, we have a team stood up in Colorado. Nick, he's our head of Western hunting. We just secured a ranch in Wyoming for us to hunt for the year. We got stuff like I said, we're have guns will travel. I was just on the phone with a guy, John Norris, the other day. He's a retired game warden out of California, lives in Montana as well. But he's like, look, I just shot 2,000 ground squirrels on this ranch, of depredation. I'm like, dude, we'll bring our air guns and do that. That's fine. He's like, cool, love to have you. So we're, like I said, have guns will travel, powder, air, bow and arrow. I mean, what are we hunting with and where are we going? Um, and last year we took over 100 guys and gals and their kids hunting and fishing in 7 different states. And our budget, our bank account was never over 10 grand. So we've been balling on a budget. This is our second full year in operation, so we're growing by leaps and bounds, and just excited to bring, we as a board, and founders and all that, we want to bring the healing and camaraderie that we found in the outdoors, to the veteran and first responder community. Um, yeah, that's the, that was, it took me a while to find, not necessarily myself, right? But it took me a while because, like I said, I owned a full-time guide service. I sold that to my business partner, um, and started hunting Carolinas. I still do some guiding with that, not full time, just to make some walk around money so my wife don't kick me out. But I, I found that my passion is helping our brothers and sisters. Um, to me, that is a worthy cause. You know.
When did you, or how long did it take you to realize that all the cool shit that you're ever going to do isn't going to be in that uniform? It's going to be in a t-shirt or in a polo or out in the woods wearing your weatherproof camo, hunting a mule deer or something like that. When did you realize that?
Um, I started to realize it. I started to think about it before I left active duty because I was fortunate enough to go on some awesome hunts with like Combat Marine Outdoors. I actually hunted in Wisconsin with Wounded Warriors in Action up in Wausau. As I got to do these awesome hunts with some of these organizations, like literally like sitting in my war room here, right? Like I got to shoot some awesome stuff with these organizations. And I saw, firsthand what that could do. And when I first retired, Tony and I talked about doing it, and we started to train down the tracks a little bit. And we kind of shelved the project. And as I was guiding more, like, I just, like the veterans that came with, like when they shot their first hog, right? Like, and we had some organizations, that nonprofits that came and hunted with us, when I had my first guide service, and to see that transformation, like, a couple of years ago, Tony was like, "Hey, man, what do you think about going back out to Idaho? But this time we mentor some fellow veterans." Like, all right, cool, let's do that. And then we found the guys, they got their tags, and he's like, "Dude, let's do this nonprofit, man. If we're gonna do this, if we're gonna go this far down the rabbit hole of it, let's do this." So I was like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." And it, like, I don't think I was actually prepared, like that first hunt when that Angelo, when he told me what he told me, I wasn't prepared for a statement like that, to be honest with you. And it was surreal to me, like, like about, started crying honestly, because to go through the pain and suffering that we did that afternoon, and to be sitting there, and you're fully relaxed, just glass and kind of just whispering, talking a little bit, and for him to say, if it wasn't for this hunt, that I would have put a pistol in my mouth and pulled the trigger 6 months ago. Sitting on the side of a mountain and looking at that beautiful landscape, the only thing that didn't happen right then was that a beacon of light from heaven shone down on me. You know what I mean? It was like that epiphany. It was like, that this is worth it, and it's been, I'm not very good with patience. So, and it's a undertaking. It's definitely an undertaking. And none of us on the board half-ass anything. So, you know, um, we are, like, I, we can't help and save everyone, but I'm gonna do our damn best to try to save as many as we can.
I hear you, man. I hear you. I'm gonna try and do my part with the show, and you guys are gonna do the stuff that
Yeah.
that y'all know how to do. And
Yeah. I mean, people, somebody, listens to your show and shoots you a message like, "Hey man, whoever you had on just resonated with me," and pulled me out of a dark place. And you see those comments on podcasts all the time. You know, a lot of guys, a lot of veterans, right? The veteran community, we are horrible to one another across the board, regardless of branch of service and MOS and rank. We can be a terrible, our own worst enemies, really. You know, and there's guys who get really upset with guys like me who come on a podcast and just talk about whatever. I have no problem talking about anything that I did in the military. I don't have a problem telling about my mistakes, my trials, my tribulations, right? But it's all part of my journey, you know. And people get upset by us talking about that stuff. But you want to know what? My journey resonates with somebody somewhere, probably, maybe not. I don't know. Tell me to go fuck off. I don't care. But but our like these stories need to be told, right? They need to be told because if not, the younger generation's gonna, not know about it, right? Or they're gonna make the same mistakes that we made as young warriors that they shouldn't make, and or we're gonna end up like the Vietnam guys, right? Like I I I commiserate with those guys, man. Like, like when I was a kid, I always wondered, like, man, I wonder how those guys feel. And you want to know what? Part of me knows, like, we didn't get spit on when we came home, not at all, right? But our war was twice as long. The withdrawal was twice as fucked up, right? And like, there is a lot of people that pay lip service and say, yeah, we support we support the troops, but they're full of shit, and they really don't. But there is a good core of American patriots, right? Like the people that we bring to some of these properties that we hunt, right? Like that's the other thing too that brings things full circle is that when I bring veterans and stuff and first responders to come hunt with these people who've opened their homes and their private property, and they see how much they care and how patriotic they are, they're like, you know what? That made everything worthwhile, you know? So yeah, that's my
There,
2 cents.
if people, and this is in general, if you're hating on somebody for telling their story or being proud of the things that they've accomplished, or you're just putting people down and being negative, you're a fucking loser across the board.
Yeah,
I don't give a fuck
yeah.
how accomplished you are or think you are. If you getting, you know, happy, or it makes you want to put somebody down, or silence somebody's stories, especially some of the stuff that I'm trying to help people out with, you're a fucking loser. That's it. Like across the board, bar none. I don't care what you think you are. That's it. That's how I feel about that. And I don't give a fuck. Like you can go live your fucking miserable life, and I can be happy with my friends and make friends however I want and tell a story. So I yeah, I don't put people down, but that's how I feel about if you're going to have that perspective on if somebody should tell their story or not. Like I don't fuck go be miserable by yourself in the comments on Facebook, or with your other friends that you sit and drink yourself to death about. I hope you can pull yourself out of that negative hole, and do some good for the people around you someday. But until then, go fuck off. That's what I
Hey,
think
leave
about
whatever
that.
negative comments you want. Leave whatever negative comments you want, because you know what? I got a bunch of
Yeah,
buddies, right, who love to troll people. You're gonna not. It's gonna be a bad day for you, man.
yeah. All
Well,
right, man.
yeah, no,
I
I'm
got
with you.
5 questions. I got 5 questions I ask everybody, and then I'll cut you loose here. All right. What is your response to thank you for your service?
Um, usually, um, you're welcome. Uh, that usually it's a you're welcome. And a handshake. It really determines on what the look of what's the look that's in their eyes and the context of how they say it. But usually it's a you're welcome. Um, yeah.
Simple. What's the one characteristic that sets operators apart from the conventional forces?
The ability to navigate the gray area. Um, Whether you consider that to be thinking outside of the box, thinking on your feet, thinking unconventionally. Um, my very good friend of mine is a lot of my good friends are Green Berets, actually. Um, and he jokes around and he says he loves Recon Marines because we're the bastards of the soft community and that we think like criminals because we don't have the money and gear that we're supposed to, but we'll do whatever it takes to get what we want. And that makes us have a unique mind suited for unconventional warfare and criminality. It's kind of funny, but
Yeah, I can
I
get down
think
with
the
that.
ability I think the ability to navigate the gray area, um, especially while retaining your morality, your morals and ethics and stuff while doing so. I think that's what sets operators apart. Part of it for sure.
What is the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive or redo, and it wouldn't change where you are now?
That's a tough one. That could go all over the map. Um, Honestly, probably something simple. Um, and that would have been to. So one day when we were in Afghanistan, and we saved the sniper team's life, um, the kid that I pulled out, I gave him a drink of water out of my Nalgene, even though it's like cardinal no, but the dude had been on the ground for over an hour with missing appendages. Um, and I didn't know who he was at all, but I probably would have just asked him his name and then followed up just because after that day happened, um, it's not that I didn't give it a thought. I just didn't ever inquire as to what the Marine's name was. And I honestly, right now, I'd have to go back in my messages and look it up. I never knew what his name was. I didn't even know that they actually lived um, and didn't die until probably 5 years ago. And then I never knew his name until probably 8 months ago after I did the Urban Valor episode. I never knew what the Marine's name was. And that's like something crazy simple, but um, something that I never really thought of until I kind of deep dived the actions that we took on that day. I would ask him what his name was. You know what I mean? Um, I at the time I didn't because I didn't want it to be personal or be on my conscience if he died because we'd already had one of the snipers from 2-3 that was with us. That was like our fourth team. Like I was jacking steel to student in the gym, and then he stepped on an IED that night, and that was the last time I ever saw him. So I didn't want anything like that, but I still would have asked the dude I would have asked him his name. Probably it, honestly.
What's the best piece of advice that you received during your career?
Um, Pick two things and be so good at them that even after you're out of the Marine Corps, people are going to ask you your knowledge on those subjects. And I did that. I took that advice. I think for an operator, it's probably the best advice that you can have. You just need to understand that you don't always get to pick those two things. You know, you might get sent from the team to be a level 3 or whatever, and you don't want to do that, but it finds out you're good at it. And that's one of your things. And maybe your other thing is jumping or free fall jamming or something. I don't know. But pick two things and be so good at them that you're unfuckwithable. I think that's sound advice.
Last one, man. What were you afraid of then, and what are you afraid of now?
Man, you're going deep, bro. Um, I was afraid of failure. Definitely, definitely afraid of failure. Um, Mainly failing myself um, and my men, but failure nonetheless. And there was a couple times in my career where I got taken down a few pegs because like the day standing on the pool deck, that was that was a failure. Wasn't a catastrophic failure, but it was a failure. A couple times it happened. The makings of a man and a leader is how you bounce back from that. You know, um, what am I afraid of now? Letting down my kids. I think probably that's probably what I'm afraid of more than anything. The fact that I put my career and the mission in front of especially my two oldest kids. My daughter doesn't really remember me being in the Marine Corps hardly, but my two oldest kids sure do. And they have two dads. There's bald dad and there's bearded dad. Bald dad was an asshole. Bearded dad is cool. It wasn't until I went down to Mexico and did Ibogaine with vets that really changed my relationship with my kids. Um, so being the dad for them, that they deserve. I can't make up for the past, right? But I sure can take control of the future. So letting down my kids is something that I think about. That's something that frightens me.
That's all right. At least you're aware of it, right?
I try. I try to be. I try to be.
That's all we can do.
Yeah,
I
bro.
would
Yeah.
like to dig more into that point, but this internet connection is absolutely killing me. Ryan, how can everybody find you on the socials if they so choose?
So you can find me on the socials under Hunting Carolinas, or you can find me that's on for Hunting Carolinas. That's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I think I have TikTok, but my media guy does that. Um, And then for the Reason Outdoors, you can find us on Instagram under the underscore reason underscore outdoors underscore the Reason Outdoors on Facebook and the Reason Outdoors.org online.
Flew by. I really appreciate you reaching out and coming on, have a long conversation with me. You got anything for
Yeah,
me?
I don't. Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. It's been a good time.
Fuck yeah, I get to make the network bigger and we'll see where the fuck it goes from here. Bye, everybody.